Chapter 4366. Hearing his question, Feng Sanyuan glanced around. Then, he stepped forward and put his arm around Old Man Geng's shoulder. He whispered in Old Man Geng's ear, "I only told you because I saw it was you. Little Feng and the others are coming back. I'm waiting for them here." "Oh. They're coming back." Old Man Geng was very happy when he heard this. "Speaking of which, I haven't seen them for many years." "Yes. Last night, when I heard that they would be here today, I came to the city gate early in the morning to wait for them. Let me tell you, you still don't know that they gave birth to a pair of twins, right? They're almost 3 years old. I heard from little Feng that they're very cute." When Feng Sanyuan talked about this, he was like an old urchin. His eyes were full of excitement. This kind of thing made him happy and proud. He wanted to share it with everyone. After all, the happier something was, the happier it was to share it with others. "Since they're coming back this time, let them stay longer so that the children can accompany you," Old Man Geng said and patted his shoulder. "I won't get involved with you. Today is their first day back. You should have a good family gathering. In a few days, I'll visit your house again." Okay, no problem. You still have things to do. Go ahead. I'll be waiting here," Feng Sanyuan said and patted his shoulder. "Come home in a few days. I'll prepare some good wine for you." Ha, okay." Old Man Geng cupped his hands and stepped out of the city gate. Fengjiu and the others in Peach Blossom Cove had a good rest and got up early in the morning. They also knew that they told their families last night that they would be looking forward to their return early today. So, they didn't want to stay up too late. Early in the morning, they sat on the purple gold spirit deer and went to the city. Leng Hua drove the carriage while Qi Kong and the others followed beside the spirit deer. Before they arrived at the city gate, they saw a familiar figure looking around from afar. When Fengjiu saw the figure, he smiled and said to the 3 children, "Look, your great-grandfather is waiting for us there." "Where? Where?" Yu, who was originally leaning against the window, hurriedly asked. Looking towards the direction her mother was pointing at, she didn't see any old man with shining white beard, so she couldn't help but ask in confusion, "Mother, where is great-grandfather?" Yu didn't see anything. "Little sister, the one in front wearing a green robe is great-grandfather." How pointed out for her to make it easier for her to recognize. "Ah. He looked so young. He doesn't look like great-grandpa. Doesn't great-grandpa have a white beard?" she asked doubtfully. "He is your great-grandfather, no mistake." Fengjiu chuckled, seeing her grandfather waiting for them to come back. His heart could not help but warm. When Feng Sanyuan saw the familiar spirit deer carriage, he couldn't help but show a happy smile. Ha, it's here, it's here, it's here." He waved his hand and shouted. The spirit deer carriage approached from afar. When it arrived at the city gate, the spirit deer carriage also stopped. Fengjiu got off first. Seeing the familiar grandfather, he couldn't help but walk forward and hug him. "Grandfather, I'm back." Chapter 4367. Are these 2 little guys Mu Chen and Mu Yu? He couldn't help but quickly step forward and came to the side of the spirit deer carriage. "Great-grandfather." The 2 little guys softly called out and showed him a sweet smile. Ha, good, very good. Quickly let great-grandfather take a good look at you." Feng Sanyuan picked up one in each hand and hugged the 2 chubby little guys in his arms. At the same time, he said to Fengjiu, "You are quite heavy. Time flew by so quickly. You are already so big." Great-grandfather. How also poked his head out and looked at him. "How, you have also grown a lot taller, but why are you so thin? Did you not eat?" It's fine. Great-grandfather has already asked the kitchen to make your favorite dishes. Feng Sanyuan said with a smile. Looking at these three great-grandchildren, he was very happy in his heart. Thank you, great-grandfather. Hao Er's face showed a smile, and his eyes were full of joy. Grandfather. Xianyuan Mose came down from the spirit deer carriage and saluted him. And, it's good that you are back. Feng Sanyuan smiled and nodded. Grandfather, these two little guys are heavy. Put them down and let them walk on their own. Fengjiu said and looked at the two children in his arms. Great-grandfather, Chen can walk on his own. The little guy said. You can also walk on her own, great-grandfather. You also quickly said. Good, 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 then great-grandfather will hold your hands and walk, okay? Feng Sanyuan said with a smile and put them down. Holding one in each hand, he said, Go, 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 the family is waiting for you. Hao come. Fengjiu stretched out his hand towards Hao and said, We will follow great-grandfather back. She knew her grandfather's personality. Now that he was holding his two great-grandsons' hands, he was so happy that he couldn't wait for the whole city to share his joy and let them see his two great-grandsons. Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu held Hao Er's hand and followed behind Feng Sanyuan. They watched as he held a child in each hand. When he met someone familiar, he smiled and greeted them. He happily introduced them to them. This is my great-grandson, Feng Girl's children. They are a pair of twins. Old master, this pair of children is really good-looking. Ha 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 ha, of course, they are Feng Girl and Mose's children. Of course they are good-looking. It's eldest Miss Feng's child. I didn't expect the child to have grown so big in just a few years. He's really growing up. The people on the road kept praising them. Looking at the two identical and well-behaved children, they liked them very much. Look at that little face, it's so pretty. Old master, you're so lucky. To have such a pair of adorable great-grandsons. Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu held Hao Er's hand and watched from behind. They watched as all the familiar people they met along the way introduced them to the pair of children they were holding with a smile. Hao followed behind and watched. Although his parents were holding his hand, when he heard those people say that his younger brother and sister looked like his parents, he couldn't help but hold their hands tightly. He wasn't his parents' biological child. He didn't look like them. If only he was his parents' biological child. Chapter 43:68. Hearing this, he raised his head and looked at his mother. Seeing the smile and doting in her eyes, his heart warmed and he solemnly nodded, and, Hao will protect my younger siblings. Hao is so obedient. Fengjiu praised while leading him forward. Behind them, the spirit deer carriage and Qi Kong and the others unhurriedly followed. Looking at them in front, their faces overflowed with smiles. Because they walked back to Feng residence, it could be said that on this day, everyone in the city knew that they had returned. Even some people from aristocratic families came out to see them after hearing the news. They're here, they're here. Yi Jing held the child's hand and looked at the group of people coming from afar. Her face was full of excitement. Ever since they got married, they settled here. It's just that Guan Shilin would occasionally go out. This time, he was invited by the black market and had yet to return. If he knew that Fengjiu and the others had returned, he would be very happy. The two children who were led by Feng Sanyuan saw so many people in front of the door. Yu couldn't help but blink. She looked up and curiously asked, Great-grandfather, who are they? Ha 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 ha, come, great-grandfather will tell you who they are one by one. Feng Sanyuan said with a smile and led the two forward. However, before he could speak, Wan Rong and Su Shi impatiently stepped forward. This is Mu Chen and Mu Yu, right? Ai, they look so cute. Look at their eyebrows, they look so much like their mother. Wan Rong picked up Yu and looked at Mu Chen. Her eyes were full of joy. Their little faces are so handsome. Ah. They really look like their parents. She also said with a smile. She touched Mu Chen's pink and tender face and hugged him tightly in her arms. When had the two little fellows ever encountered such enthusiasm? Being hugged and kissed and touched by them, the two little fellows couldn't help but flatten their little mouths. They stretched out their hands towards Fengjiu and shouted, "Mother, mother." Seeing this scene, Fengjiu couldn't help but chuckle. It's fine. That's your grandmother and great-grandmother. They kissed you because they like you. Don't be afraid. Feng Sanyuan saw that the two children were about to cry from fright. He quickly stepped forward and said, all right. Look at you. You've scared the two children. Come. Great-grandpa will hug you. He reached out his hands to hug the two of them, but the two of them took a step back to avoid him. Let us hug you. Be good. Don't be afraid. I won't kiss you guys anymore. The two of them carried the children and walked inside. As they coaxed the two children, they took out some toys for them to play with. Seeing the two children's faces change from pouting at the beginning to surprise and happiness at the end, Xianyuan Mose couldn't help but secretly shake his head and reveal a helpless smile. These two children were really easy to coax. That wouldn't do. It wouldn't be good if she was easily coaxed away. I'll have to remind them again when I get back. Unless it's a close family member, they can't take or eat anything from strangers. Yi Jing. Fengjiu stepped forward and hugged her after not seeing her for a long time. He asked with a smile, your complexion looks good. It seems that you've been living well here these past few years. By the way, where's my brother? Fengjiu asked. Chapter 43-69. Entjiu. The child looked at Fengjiu curiously and obediently called out to his mother. Good boy. Fengjiu replied with a smile. She patted the child's head and took out a night-luminescent pearl from her space and handed it to him. This pearl is for you to play with. Entjiu will give you some good things later. The child is still young. It's not suitable for him to hold this. Quickly put it away. Yi Jing said and pushed the night-luminescent pearl back to her. Why are you being so courteous with me? Fengjiu raised her eyebrows and looked at her. She smiled and said, isn't it just a pearl? It's not something expensive. Come, take it. This is not a meeting gift. I'll give you a meeting gift later. She chuckled and gently scratched the child's nose. She said, Yi Jing, this child looks like my brother. Look at his appearance. It's as if he came out of the same mold. Quickly thank Entjiu. Yi Jing saw that she couldn't refuse, so she could only let the child take it and let him thank her quickly. Thank you, Entjiu. The child smiled happily and took the pearl to play with it curiously. They all say that he looks like his father. Needless to say, he's his child. Yi Jing smiled and said, go in first. Let's talk inside. Don't stand here. Come, go in. Your great-grandfather asked the kitchen to prepare your favorite food early. He even dug out the little toys you used to play with. Hao-er's eyes lit up when he heard that. He said to Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu, Daddy, Mommy, I'll go in first. Bring the little brother along. Fengjiu said and looked at the dignified little boy beside him. She couldn't help but smile when she saw that the little boy's face was similar to Guan Xilin's. Her brother's son looked dignified and was really cute. Yiming, go. Go in with Brother Hao and play with your younger brothers and sisters. Yi Jing gestured for her son to come forward. Yes. The little boy wasn't afraid of strangers and followed Hao-er eagerly. This brat is so dignified. He's so cute. Fengjiu couldn't help smiling when he saw the little girl and Hao-er grinning from ear to ear. Very naughty. Come, let's go in and chat. Yi Jing held her hand and walked inside. She smiled and said, your father specially went to move those children's toys and brought them all to the front yard. He said that he would let the children pick what they liked. He's probably still busy inside. I was wondering why I didn't see him. Fengjiu chuckled and chatted with her as they walked inside. Xianyuan Mose walked at the back. Behind him, Qi Kong and the others also walked inside. When they saw familiar people, they all went up to greet them. The entire Feng Manor was filled with a lively and joyous atmosphere. The people outside the manor watched from a distance. They were curious and joyful as they discussed. When Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu arrived inside, they saw Feng Sanyuan and Feng Xiao standing to the side and helping the children eat. Su Shi and Wan Rong were busy feeding the children. Seeing the little ones' mouths bulging like little squirrels, Fengjiu couldn't help but shake his head and helplessly smile. She walked over to her father and said with a smile, "Daddy, I'm back." Chapter 43-70. Fengjiu sighed and said, I was worried that you wouldn't be able to sleep if I told you. I wanted to tell you before coming over in the morning, but I was afraid that you would be flustered. It's fine, it's fine. Don't talk about not sleeping for one night. It's fine even if we don't sleep for 10 days or half a month. Don't make a fuss. Feng Sanyuan waved his hand and said, Little Feng, it's fine if your grandmother and the others accompany the children here. We haven't sat down and had a good drink in a long time. Mose, let's go inside and have a few drinks. Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu looked at each other and nodded with a smile. Okay. Then, they followed him inside with Yi Jing and Feng Xiao. After they sat down, Feng Xiao asked someone to serve the dishes. Yi Jing took the wine pot and poured a cup for them. Sai, when you were fighting the Black Lotus Lord, we knew, but we couldn't help. We're really ashamed. Fortunately, you all recovered later. Otherwise, we would feel uneasy. Feng Sanyuan said as he picked up some food for Fengjiu. Grandfather, don't mention the past anymore. Besides, we're all fine now, aren't we? Fengjiu said with a smile. Looking at the bowl full of her favorite dishes, the smile on his face deepened. Even if she hadn't come back for a few years, they still remembered her favorite dishes. Right. Come, let's drink and eat. They came back today, so let's talk about happy things. Let's not talk about the past anymore. Feng Xiao said, then said to Xianyuan Mose, Come, Mose, let's eat. Xianyuan Mose made a sound of acknowledgement, then picked up some food to eat. By the way, have you brought the children to see the in-laws? Feng Sanyuan asked. Not yet. Fengjiu took a sip of wine and said, after we came back, we went to Peach Blossom Cove first. We planned to stay there for a day or two, but we wanted to rest well before coming back. Then we met there, so we only stayed for a day. Let's stay here for a while. After a while, Mose and I will go back with the children and stay there for a while. And, we have to go back and stay for a few days. If the in-laws see the two children, they will definitely be very happy. Feng Sanyuan said with a smile. At the table, they drank and chatted. They talked about the things they had encountered over the years and the interesting stories of the two children growing up. Until a few children rushed in from outside. Father, mother. Mother. A few children trotted in and came to their side. Their small faces were filled with joy. Mother, Brother Yiming is so amazing. He eats a lot. Yu blinked her beautiful eyes and said to Fengjiu in surprise in her soft voice. As she spoke, she gestured with her small hands. Mother, this is the small wooden sword brother gave me. Mu Chen took out a new small wooden sword and handed it to Fengjiu to look at. Guan Yiming, on the other hand, lay beside Yi Jing and stared at Mu Chen and Mu Yu's identical little faces. After a while, he looked up at his mother and said, "Mother, you should also give birth to a pair of identical little brothers and sisters for me. I also want younger siblings like them." Chapter 43-71. Chen, and you, are also your younger siblings. Besides, don't they also call you Brother Yiming? Fengjiu chuckled as she looked at the dignified Guan Yiming. Guan Yiming blinked and looked at Mu Chen and Mu Yu, then at his mother and Fengjiu. He didn't speak for a long time and just laughed foolishly. On this day, the long-separated family had a good reunion. The children played together for the whole day. It wasn't until nightfall that Feng Sanyuan let them go back to rest early. A few days later, when Fengjiu was chatting with her mother and grandmother in the courtyard, she saw the dignified Guan Yiming running in excitedly. Aunt Jiu, my father is back." Fengjiu smiled. "Oh. Your father is back. Where is he?" "At home. He said he'll come over after bathing and changing his clothes." Guan Yiming looked left and right and asked, "Aunt Jiu, where are brother Chen, and sister Yu, They and how, were called by their grandfather and great-grandfather. They're probably at the martial arts field." Fengjiu chuckled. "I'll go play with them," the little guy said and ran away. "It's great that the children are together," Su she said with a smile. She thought of her son and couldn't help but sigh. It would be great if he, came back too. Fengjiu chuckled. "Grandmother, little uncle is cultivating under his master. That place is quiet and without disputes. It's also a good thing. When they leave the mountain in the future, they will naturally come back." She smiled and said, "At that time, if grandmother can't bear to part with little uncle, let him stay at home with you for a while. If little uncle wants to go to the academy to study or enter a sect, I can also arrange it for him." Su Shi smiled and said, "We'll talk about this later. There's no hurry. By the way, Xiaojiu, when do you plan to bring the children to see their grandfather?" Wanrong asked. "Let's stay here for a while first. Moze has already sent a message back and told his father that they are here now. He also told him that we will stay here for a while before going over, so we're not in a hurry to go over there. Besides, it's convenient to go there now. We only need a transmission array to get there and it won't take long to go back and forth." Fengjiu chuckled. Compared to the other side, she naturally preferred to live here, so she wanted to stay here for a while before going over. "Where do you plan to live in the future? There's nothing else to do now. You've become the lords of heaven and earth and are so powerful. Ordinary people won't make trouble for you. The sovereigns of the other heavens and earth are also on good terms with you. Only the devil master who obtained the Black Lotus is left. What do you plan to do about this?" Wanrong looked at her and asked. She was also worried about this matter. "Actually, Moze and I plan to bring the children back and hand them over to you to take care of. Then we'll go find the devil master to resolve this matter. The longer this matter drags on, the harder it will be to deal with it. Previously, my strength had not recovered and I had many things to do. Now, the other things are more or less arranged. We just need to deal with the devil master and take back the Black Lotus to purify." As she spoke, her voice paused and she smiled. "But this matter is easier said than done." Chapter 43-72. "Grandmother, mother, I'm going to my brother's residence. If the children are looking for me, tell them that I'll be back soon." She stood up and said to the two of them. "Okay, go ahead. The children are accompanied by your grandfather and the others, so they won't be coming for a while. You two brothers have been separated for a long time. It's rare for you two to meet, so you should have a good chat." Su she said with a smile. Thus, Fengjiu bowed to the two of them and walked out of the residence, arriving at the Guan residence. When Yi Jing heard the housekeeper say that she was here, she came out to welcome her. She smiled and said, "Your brother is travel-worn. I told him to take a bath first before going to see you. I didn't expect you to come. Come, let's sit inside for a while." Yiming went over to talk about it. It just so happens that there's nothing much to do. The children are also with Grandpa and the others, so I came over to sit. As Feng Jiu spoke, she walked towards the front hall with her. Yi Jing instructed the housekeeper to tell Guan Shilin that Feng Jiu was here. She then chatted with Feng Jiu in the hall. After bathing, Guan Shilin strode out of the room and saw the housekeeper waiting outside the courtyard. When he approached, he heard that Feng Jiu and Yi Jing were in the front hall, so he went straight to the front hall. Before he reached the hall, he heard laughter coming from inside. He strode in and couldn't help but smile when he saw the familiar red figure. "Xiao Jiu. You're finally back. Brother." Feng Jiu stood up and said, "I've been back for a few days. When I heard that you were back, I wanted to come over and have a chat with you." "Ha ha 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 ha, good, good, good. Sit, sit." Guan Shilin laughed loudly and gestured for her to sit down. He then sat beside her and looked at her. When he saw her current strength, he couldn't help but smile and say, "It seems that you've recovered your strength. That's good. We can rest assured. You two can continue chatting. I'll go to the kitchen to make something for you two to eat," Yi Jing said with a smile. She stood up and walked out, giving the two of them some space to talk. "You don't have to be too busy. Just check if there are any pastries and snacks in the kitchen," Guan Shilin said with a smile. "I know. You guys continue chatting." Yi Jing smiled and nodded at Feng Jiu before walking out. Seeing this, Feng Jiu smiled and said, "My strength has been restored, and I've been idle recently. I've been staying at home to accompany my children. You, on the other hand, have become a busy person after not seeing you for so long. I heard that the black market is looking for you to help them with something." "Hee, that's right. The black market asked me to go over and help them. It's not a big deal. Once the matter was settled, I heard that you came back, so I hurried back. Now that you're back, you don't plan to leave, right? There shouldn't be anything important to deal with now, right? We'll be staying here mainly because of the two children. We plan to." She told him her plan. Originally, it was like that. That's good too. It's safer for the two children to stay here. You don't know this, but after living here for a few years, I've realized that it's more peaceful and comfortable than here. So, look at me now. Unless there's something special, I usually don't leave this place for too long. Moreover, Yi Jing and the children are here, so I can't bear to go too far." At this point, Guan Shilin revealed a smile. His smile exuded a sense of happiness, and anyone who saw it would be able to feel his happiness. Chapter 43-73. Where the family was, that was where the home was. Where the home was, that was where the heart would be at ease. The brother and sister had not been together for a long time. The two chatted for a while and forgot about the time until the children came to find them. Come, Aunt Jiu and my father are in the front hall." Guan Yiming felt as if he was in his own territory. He walked in front and took care of Mu Chen and Mu Yu who were younger than him. "Brother Chen, let Brother Hao hold your hand. I will hold Sister Yu, so that she won't fall." The little guy said and held Yu's little hand with a simple and honest smile on his face. "I will take you to see my father. Let me tell you, my father is very powerful." When the little guy heard this, he hurriedly said, "Yu's father is the most powerful. My father is also amazing. My father can move very, very big stones. Moreover, my father can lift me up high." Guan Yiming said proudly. However, when they heard this, not only Yu was stunned, even Chen was at a loss. The two twins looked at each other as if they had a tacit understanding. Yu curiously asked, "Brother Yiming, what is lifting high? Ah. The little guy seemed to have not expected that they would ask this. For a moment, he was also stunned and asked, have you never played lifting high? No. Yu shook her head, and softly said, my father doesn't know how to raise high, and he also doesn't know how to move big stones. She had never seen her father move big stones, moreover, why would he want to move big stones? Then my father is more powerful. Guan Yiming smiled happily and said, in a while, let my father lift you up high. It will be very fun. Let's go. He said and led Yu to the front hall. Fengjiu and Guan Shilin were chatting in the hall. With the strength of the two of them, even if they did not deliberately listen, they could still hear the children outside. They looked at each other and smiled. Then the children came in together. Father. Guan Yiming rushed forward and looked at Fengjiu. He called out, Aunt Jiu. Why are you guys here? Fengjiu chuckled as he rubbed Yiming's head. We missed mother, so we came to look for mother. Yu said while looking at Guan Shilin from time to time. How greets uncle. How stepped forward and bowed, then looked at Fengjiu. Mother. Fengjiu smiled and nodded. Guan Shilin laughed heartily. How has also grown a lot taller. Come here, let uncle take a look. He beckoned for him to come forward. How walked up to his side. Why are you so skinny? Are you being picky? Guan Shilin asked. Looking at the young boy's cold aura, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. The little guy had grown taller, but he was not as strong as before. 2 years ago, his aura was not as cold as this. It's probably because he's been busy cultivating and tired, so he's lost weight. I'll let him stay here with us for a while and take good care of his body. As she spoke, she looked at Mu Chen and Mu Yu and said, you two, hurry up and greet your uncle. Mu Chen. Mu Yu. Greetings, uncle. The two little guys said at the same time. Chapter 43-74. Uncle gave it to you, take it. Fengjiu said with a smile. Take it. Your brother used to have one too. Guan Shilin smiled and looked at her. Thank you, uncle. The two little guys reached out to take the gifts and kept them properly. Then, Yu blinked her eyes and looked at her uncle who was stronger than her father. She asked curiously, Uncle, what do you mean by lifting him up high? Brother Yiming said that you will lift him up high. Ha 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 ha, come, uncle will tell you what it means to be lifted up high. Guan Shilin laughed happily and his laughter filled the hall. He stood up and went forward to pick up the little one and lifted him up high above his head. This is what it means to be lifted up high, is it fun? Guan Shilin asked with a smile. Ha ha ha, that you giggled. From being carried up to being lifted up to the top, and again coming down and then being lifted up again, this up and down was very amusing to her. Even if she didn't say it, from that happy laughter of hers, one could tell. It's fun, uncle, it's fun. How looked at this scene and a smile appeared on his little face. Mu Chen's eyes widened as he looked at her with a look of disbelief. So this is what it means to be lifted up high, he didn't think much of it. Mu Chen, do you want to play? Guan Shilin put Yu down and turned to ask little Mu Chen who was standing beside Fengjiu. No. Mu Chen shook his head and lay in his mother's arms. Ha ha ha, this kid's character is the same as Hao-er's, just like their father. Guan Shilin laughed and looked at the children. He said to Fengjiu, now that there are a few children accompanying us, it's much livelier. Yes. It's like fighting in a ring every day at home, especially my grandfather, who takes them everywhere to play. It's only been a few days since we came back, but I guess all the familiar aristocratic families in the city have already visited us. Fengjiu smiled helplessly and looked at the children with doting eyes. The kids are here too. Why don't we eat here today? Yi Jing walked in with a tray in her hands. On the tray were 2 plates of exquisite desserts. Of course not. You know that my mother and grandmother have been telling the kitchen to cook this and that. They also said that how is too thin and needs more nourishment. They cook delicious food every day. Fengjiu said, my brother is back today. Let's go eat together. Let's have a good gathering. That's good too. It's been a long time since we got together. Let's go over there and eat. You don't have to prepare anything at home, Guan Shilin said with a smile and told Yi Jing. When Yi Jing saw this, she only smiled and did not say anything. After sitting there for a while, Fengjiu brought the children back to the foam manor. Upon entering, he saw Leng Hua walk over. Master. He called out but did not say anything. He only looked at the children with a gentle smile on his face. How, take them to find your father. Mother will be there in a while. Fengjiu said to Hao, and let him bring the children in first. Okay. Hao nodded and led them in first. After they left, Fengjiu asked, what's wrong? Du Fan is back. Oh. Where is he? Fengjiu asked. In the pavilion in front. Chapter 43-75. Du Fan walked slowly in the pavilion with his hands behind his back. When he saw Fengjiu coming, he walked forward and called out, Master. Sit down and talk. Fengjiu gestured and sat down with him in the pavilion. Then he asked, how did it go? When I arrived there, I personally told Monarch Black Tortoise that Hao was staying here. He asked me to stay there for a few days, so I stayed there. At the same time, I secretly inquired about Hao's situation over there these few years. Du Fan paused and continued, Monarch Black Tortoise and his wife have another child. He's almost 3 years old. It's a boy and they like him very much. Although Hao went back these few years, he was raised here by Master and the Yama Lord. When he went back, he was sensible. Although he was close to them, he was not as close as he was to Master and the Yama Lord. In addition, Hao's personality is similar to that of the Yama Lord since he was young. Therefore, as time passed and they had a younger son, they did not care about Hao as much as before. However, they did not treat him badly in terms of food and accommodation. They just neglected him a little. As a result, he buried himself in cultivation all day long and became colder and colder. As Du Fan spoke, he looked at Fengjiu, who was frowning slightly, and said, Master, according to what I heard, Monarch Black Tortoise and his wife did not treat Hao badly. However, he was not raised by them since he was young, so there would be a sense of unfamiliarity. In addition, they had a younger son who was raised by them. In comparison, there would naturally be a difference in closeness after a long time. Hao was a sensitive child since he was young, so he should be aware of this. After saying these words, he did not say anything more. He just looked at her and let her make her own decision. To the Black Tortoise Monarch and the others, Hao was their biological son after all. Naturally, they would not say that they had mistreated him or that their subordinates had bullied their masters. However, the kindness of raising him was greater than the kindness of giving birth to him. Hao was brought up by their master and the Yama Lord. Naturally, he would be more dependent and close to them. Naturally, he could not treat his biological parents the same way as his master and the Yama Lord. If the child was like this, the parents would gradually lose interest in him after a long time. With another son by their side, they would naturally lose interest in him. This was not their fault. Alright, I got it. You've just come back. Have a good rest. Fengjiu said as he got up and slowly walked away. It was enough to know that Hao was not bullied there. As for the rest, since he was unhappy at his father's place, she would bring him over to her side. It just so happened that the children would have company. After making up her mind, she planned to talk to Mose at night and let him talk to the Black Tortoise monarch. She believed that the other party would agree with their decision. At night, because of Guan Xilin's return, everyone gathered again. They had not seen each other for a long time and seemed to have endless topics to talk about. After half a month of peaceful and warm days, Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu took the 3 children and said goodbye to Feng Sanyuan and the others. They only took Ling Shuang, Ling Hua, Hui Lang, Ying Yi, and a few others with them. They left through the teleportation array and headed to the empire. As early as when he knew that they had returned with the 2 children, the Xianyuan monarch had been waiting for them. If it was not because he had to deal with the empire's affairs, he would have wanted to go to the Feng family to see his 2 grandsons. Chapter 43-76. Mother, does Grandpa live in such a big place by himself? Yu looked at the magnificent palace curiously and excitedly. There are many people here, not just your grandpa. Fengjiu smiled and rubbed her little head. He held her little hand and walked forward slowly beside Xianyuan Mose. It was a familiar place. Thinking about it, it had been a long time since he came here. This place was still the same. It was different from the Feng family's place. In this palace, power and authority were the rulers. Hao had been here before and was no stranger to this place. In addition, his biological father's palace was even more magnificent. Therefore, he didn't feel anything when he came here. Mu Chen was young and knew that this palace was where his grandpa lived. It was also where his daddy used to live. Therefore, he looked around curiously. Their family walked in the front while Ling Shuang, Ling Hua, and Grey Wolf walked behind them. As they walked along the road, the guards and maids in the palace all bowed and saluted them when they saw them. Some clever ones had already entered the palace and reported the news of their return. Monarch, Monarch, His Highness and the others are back. The monarch of Xianyuan Kingdom, who had just sat down, immediately stood up. His eyes were filled with excitement and joy. They are back. Where are they? They are coming to this palace, the guard reported. Hearing this, he immediately walked out. When he arrived outside, he saw 3 children walking in front of him from afar. One of them was a little girl in a pink dress who was skipping along. Beside her was an identical little boy and Hao, who had grown a lot taller. Behind him was Mose, who was dressed in a black robe, and Fengjiu, who was dressed in a red robe. When he saw them, an excited smile appeared on his face, and he strode forward. Why didn't you tell me that you were coming today? I would have let the people prepare. He smiled and walked forward. Looking at the pair of little children looking up at him, he couldn't hide the excitement in his eyes. This must be Mu Chen and Mu Yu. Father, this is Mu Chen and Mu Yu. Fengjiu bowed to him and said with a smile, then looked at the 2 children. Quickly, greet your grandfather. Grandpa. The 2 children called out sweetly, looking well behaved. Ha 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 ha, good good good. He happily laughed, then bending over, he stepped forward and hugged Yu. Hao greets Grandpa. Hao also saluted at this time and called out. Hao has grown up and taller. It's good that all of you are here. It will be more lively with all of you around. He smiled and glanced at Hao and Mu Chen. He said to them, Grandpa's palace is big and there are many places to stay. You guys should stay here for a few more days and keep Grandpa company. Father, we'll be staying here for a while. We won't be leaving anytime soon, Xianyuan Mose said. Hearing this, Emperor Xianyuan nodded. This is good. It will give me a chance to spend more time with the children. In the past, when you came, you only stayed for a few days. Since there is nothing important now, you can stay for a while. He paused and said, if you are not used to living in the palace, your residence outside the palace is still there. You can also stay there. In short, stay for a few more days. Chapter 43-77. Hearing that Xianyuan Mose would be staying in the palace, the emperor of the Xianyuan kingdom was very happy. He immediately took them to the palace and ordered the imperial kitchen to prepare a sumptuous banquet. Then, he took the 3 children to the national treasury and let them pick their favorite gifts. While they were living in the palace and enjoying the joy of a family reunion, the news of them returning to this place spread out quietly. Fengjiu's friends knew that they had returned to the Phoenix dynasty, so they put down the things at hand and specially rushed to the Feng family to have a good gathering with them. The demon master, who had been avoiding Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose for a few years and had been using the Black Lotus to improve his strength since he obtained it, also began to have ideas after receiving the news. So, they have left the Feng family and gone to the Xianyuan Empire? The demon master played with 2 black beads in his hand as he listened to the demonic cultivator kneeling in front of him report the latest news. Yes, they didn't bring many people with them, and they have 3 children. Hearing this, the demon master, who was sitting diagonally on the main seat, didn't say anything, as if he was thinking about something. He narrowed his blood-red eyes and pondered, holding the 2 black beads in his hand, gently turning the beads, making a crisp collision sound. I have avoided them for a long time, and it's time to let them know how powerful I am. But, where should I start? He murmured in a low voice, but his blood-red eyes glowed with a strange light, and his lips curved into a bloodthirsty smile. He clearly already had an idea. The kneeling guard raised his head slightly and happened to see the bloodthirsty smile on his face. He couldn't help but tremble, and quickly lowered his head. The demonic cultivators below have been idle for a long time, go. Let them make some noise. His sinister voice revealed a hint of excitement, and he waved his hand to signal the kneeling guard to leave. Yes, I will take my leave. The demonic cultivator responded and quickly left. After the demonic cultivator left, the 2 demonic cultivators on his left and right asked, Master, do you want us to go and make some noise? When the time comes, the 2 of you will follow this monarch to secretly do something. He smiled sinisterly, twirling the 2 black pearls in his hand, and said, compared to dealing with Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose, don't you think it would be more interesting to deal with their children? Hearing this, the 2 of them looked at each other, hesitated for a moment, and said, it is said that their 2 children are not even 3 years old, and they are always by their side. I am afraid that it will be difficult to make a move. That's why I plan to go there personally. I'll start with their children first and mess up Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose's minds. Then, it'll be easy to deal with them. His voice was filled with excitement. His hands slowly rotated and finally clenched into a fist. It was as if he was completely confident in this plan and was only waiting for him to personally make a move. The 2 demonic cultivators didn't dare to say anything and just stood respectfully behind him. They faintly felt uneasy about the demon master's decision to make a move on Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose's children. If this matter didn't succeed, then it was one thing, but if it did, they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to bear the ghost Dr. Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose's torrential anger. Chapter 43-78. Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose were completely unaware of the Devil Lord's plans. During this period of time, they stayed in the palace. The children accompanied their grandfather every day, enjoying the happiness of a family reunion. Because they were in the palace and their grandfather was accompanying them, Xianyuan Mose did not stay by their side. These days, if he was not reading in the library, he was sitting cross-legged and cultivating. Fengjiu spent a few leisurely days here. Seeing that the children were close to their grandfather, he entered the space to cultivate. During this period of time, she faintly felt that the green lotus in her body was growing stronger. At the same time, she also felt that the aura of the golden lotus in the spiritual spring was growing stronger. This was not only helpful to the growth of the green lotus, but also helped it grow stronger. In the space, she sat cross-legged and looked at the dazzling golden light emitted from the golden lotus. The light was as dazzling and beautiful as the sun, and the light seemed to carry a rainbow of colors. The sacred aura emitted by the golden lotus grew stronger and stronger, so much so that her green lotus was also affected by the aura and light and became stronger day by day. She closed her eyes and meditated. Time passed day by day. On the first day, she could feel the growth and changes of the green lotus in her body. She didn't know how much time had passed. On this day, she was still meditating. The golden lotus in front of her swayed gently. In the dazzling and sacred golden light, a shadow seemed to be condensing bit by bit. Fengjiu did not notice, but the contract beasts in the space all saw it. They saw the familiar immortal-like person, Mo Chen, who had disappeared in front of them. His body was condensing bit by bit in the golden light, like a shadow and like an illusion. In fact, this was not the first time they had seen Mo Chen come out of the golden lotus. Early on, when their master moved the golden lotus in, she had told them that Mo Chen's soul was attached to the golden lotus and had become one with it. It was only a matter of time before he condensed an immortal body. However, after his soul fell into a deep sleep to recover, he had not awakened until today. They were excited and could not help but look at their master. However, they saw that she was still meditating, so they did not disturb her. In the golden lotus, Mo Chen, whose immortal body was gradually condensing, stood at the heart of the golden lotus and quietly looked at Fengjiu in front of him. His expression was indifferent, but there was a gentle and elegant smile on his lips, as always, as if it had never changed. He looked at her with the same gentle gaze, but there was no longer any affection in his gaze, there was only relief after letting go of everything. "Ah Jiu," he called out gently. His voice was as pleasant as the spring breeze. Fengjiu slowly opened his eyes when he heard the name, Jiu. At first glance, he saw the white figure in the golden lotus. However, the figure in the golden lotus was only the size of a palm, but his eyes and expression were still as familiar as before. Mo Chen, you've condensed an immortal body. Fengjiu was overjoyed. He quickly stood up and walked forward. Chapter 43-79. Because I have been in your space for the past 2 years and have been nourished by the golden lotus, my immortal body has made some progress. Now the form has been formed, but I have yet to condense my real body. He spoke slowly, his voice as gentle as the spring breeze. The day my immortal body is fully formed, the golden lotus will disappear and become one with me. At the same time, I will disappear from your space. If you can't see me then, don't panic and don't worry. Hearing this, Fengjiu was stunned. She hurriedly asked, disappear? Then where will you go? He looked at her and saw her slightly startled expression and the worry in her eyes. His heart warmed and he gently said, my body has already disappeared from this world. Once the soul residing in this golden lotus condenses a celestial body from the ancient golden lotus, this golden celestial will become one with me. At the same time, as the golden lotus disappears, my celestial body will also return to where my teacher is. His gentle voice paused and he said slowly, the heavenly mountain is where I cultivated and grew up. When my immortal body is formed, it will naturally return to that place. Fengjiu's anxious heart was relieved by his words. She relaxed and asked, is there anything else I can do for you? I feel that the green lotus's strength has increased recently. Maybe I can. Mo Chen raised his hand to signal her to stop talking. He shook his head slightly and smiled warmly. I just need to wait for the right time. No one can help me with this. He looked at her with gentle eyes and smiled. Many years ago, Master told me that I have one foot in the heavens of life and death. There is a life and death trial in my life. If I can cross it, I will become an immortal. If I can't, I will disappear from the world. I didn't know what Master meant before. Later, I understood everything. His eyes were gentle and there was calmness in his gentleness. Everything that has happened in these years has been predestined. Hearing this, Fengjiu was silent. She didn't say anything. She just sighed softly in her heart. There were many things that didn't need to be said. There was no need to say them. Both of them knew this. In her heart, even though she loved Xianyuan Mo's deeply, Mo Chen would always be a special existence to her. If she could help him, she really wanted to do something for him. However, he had always been the one who contributed. As if he knew what she was thinking, Mo Chen smiled and asked gently, "How have you been these past few years? Tell me about it. I feel that it won't be long before my immortal body reaches great perfection. When I return to Sky Mountain, I don't know when I will see you again. Even if you go back, if your master doesn't allow you to leave the mountain, we can still go and see you." She suppressed the thoughts in her mind and chuckled. "While you were sleeping and cultivating, I didn't stay idle either." She stood beside Jinlian and told Mo Chen about what had happened in the past few years. As she spoke, Mo Chen listened quietly. It wasn't until Mo Chen once again merged into Jinlian to cultivate that Fengjiu turned and left the space. Xianyuan Mo's was about to go and see the children when he felt something strange in the room. He stopped walking and turned back to the room. When he entered the room, he saw Fengjiu standing by the window and looking outside. He didn't know what he was thinking, but his expression was blank. Chapter 4380. Mo Chen's immortal body has already reached the initial stage, Fengjiu said as she relaxed in his arms. That's a good thing, Xianyuan Mo said as he lowered his head to look at her. Why do you seem to be so unhappy? Yes, it's a good thing that his immortal body has reached the initial stage. I'm also very happy for him. But I don't know why, but I feel a little depressed. She said slowly, he told me that when he reaches the immortal body and becomes an immortal, the ancient golden lotus will disappear from my space along with him and return to the heavenly mountain where his master is. He told me that I don't have to worry about his sudden disappearance in the future. Xianyuan Mo listened quietly and did not speak. He knew that what she needed now was someone to listen to, someone to let her relax. When he talked about what his master said to him many years ago, and how everything that happened in the past few years was predestined, I had an indescribable feeling in my heart. It was as if, no matter how hard we work, everything is predestined by the heavens. Hearing this, his deep eyes flashed and he asked, "So, when you're lamenting about everything that happened in the past few years, are you also worried about what that old Taoist said about our two children?" Fengjiu did not speak. She pursed her lips and slowly lowered her gaze. That's right, when she heard Mo Chen talk about those things, while she was lamenting about the wonders of fate, she was also shocked. If fate was predestined, did that mean that, no matter how hard they worked, everything would still happen? She was worried that her two children would not be able to grow up safely. At this moment, she felt a pair of gentle hands wrap around hers. Xianyuan Mo, who was behind her, used his strong arms to hug her. His large hands held her hands, as if he wanted to pass on his strength to her. The warmth from behind her, as well as that familiar aura, gradually calmed her down. Don't worry, no matter what you face in the future, I will be by your side and face it with you. Yes, I know. She replied softly, revealing a smile. On the other side of the palace, the emperor of Xianyuan Kingdom was accompanying the three children to plant trees in the garden. He was the emperor of the 6 kingdoms, but at this moment, he was wearing a normal robe with his sleeves rolled up as he squatted in the garden to help support the saplings. Step on the ground again, make the surrounding soil firm, the emperor of Xianyuan Kingdom said. As he said this, he saw that the 3 children were covered in soil from digging and watering the soil. They looked like 3 little kittens, and couldn't help but find it funny. You, step. The little one hurriedly put down the little shovel in her hand. She lifted the hem of her little skirt with one hand and stomped hard on the soil with her little feet. Sister, your dress is dirty. Mu Qin said as he looked at the muddy handprints on her beautiful new dress. What? Ha ha ha, it's all right. You all have to go back and take a bath. Just take a bath and change into clean clothes. The king of Shenyuan Kingdom laughed out loud. Chapter 4381. How, who came over with a small water bottle, couldn't help but laugh. Little sister, it won't bear fruit tomorrow. Even if it does, it will take many years. Yes, it will take many years to bear fruit. Tomorrow, it won't bear fruit. Ha 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 ha. The emperor of Shenyuan Kingdom couldn't help but laugh when he heard the child's words. You, won't it grow faster if you water it every day? She blinked her beautiful big eyes and asked. Mu Chen, who was beside her, acted like a little adult and said, this kind of sapling will take a long time to grow. When we grow up, it will also bear fruit. Yes, when you grow up, this spirit fruit tree will also grow. The emperor of Shenyuan Kingdom smiled and nodded. There's still a long way to go. There's no need to rush. Come, Grandpa will bring you to surround the sapling. In the future, no one will be allowed to enter this place. This is your place. Grandpa will help you guard the fruit tree. As he spoke, he brought the 3 children to stand in front of the sapling and looked around. He said, Chen, go and get the purple spirit bamboo. Plant it here and form a circle. How, you are strong. You will dig a hole starting from here. You, sprinkle water around so that there won't be so much dust flying around. Okay. The 3 children responded excitedly. Following his instructions, they each began to do one thing. Doing things with their own hands and with their grandfather accompanying them, they were all very excited and motivated. How, in particular, was very happy. During this period of time, the smile on his little face had increased by quite a bit. Because he was at his father's and mother's side, regardless of whether they went to the Feng Manor or the Imperial Palace, he felt as if he had returned home. The Emperor of Shenyuan Kingdom really loved them. This great imperial garden was originally a place where hundreds of flowers bloomed. However, he ordered a large patch of flowers and plants to be pulled out to make a space in the center for the 3 children to plant the spirit fruit tree. He also specially found the precious purple spirit bamboo and planted it around the spirit fruit tree to form a protective circle. On this day, they worked until evening. When the sky gradually darkened, both the Emperor of Shenyuan Kingdom and the 3 children were exhausted. Only then did they return together. Grandfather, tomorrow morning I will come to water them. I will come to water them every day. Yu, who was being carried by her grandfather, had an excited expression on her face when she spoke about the spiritual fruit trees. Okay. I'll come over early tomorrow morning. He looked at Hao, and Mu Chen beside him and asked, Are you too tired? I'm not tired, said the 2 of them. As they spoke, they looked at each other and smiled. Even if they felt tired, they didn't want to say it out loud because they were happy. Brother, are you hungry? Mu Chen asked. I'm not hungry. I had some snacks just now, Hao said and looked at him. Are you hungry? I have food here. I'm thirsty. I'm not hungry, Mu Chen said. I have water. Hao hurriedly took out a water bag from his space. Mu Chen took it and asked curiously, Brother, why do you still have a water skin in your space? Chapter 4382. They chatted as they walked. Not far behind them, Leng Hua and Hui Lang were following them at a leisurely pace. Hui Lang couldn't help but smile as he looked at them. The monarch really dotes on the 3 of them. Look at all those precious flowers and plants in the imperial garden. He actually plucked them just like that. Amen, I can see that. Leng Hua nodded with a smile. Let me tell you a secret. In the past, the monarch didn't even treat Master this well. Even when the father and son met, they didn't talk much. But now, the monarch actually accompanied the 3 children to plant trees and bamboos for an entire day. I really didn't expect the monarch to be this kind of person. Hearing this, Leng Hua looked at him with amusement and said, "Is there anyone who praises people like you? Aren't you afraid that the monarch will hear you? Heh heh, this is nothing. Besides, you see, the monarch is now wholeheartedly focused on the 3 golden grandchildren. How could he care about what we are talking about?" Hui Lang grinned and waved his hand carelessly. Leng Hua shook his head with a smile and didn't say anything. Just as the two of them walked, they kept looking at the people in front of them. When they came to a bend, they heard Yu curiously calling out in a low voice. "Ah! Grandpa, Grandpa, look, what's that?" They raised their heads and looked at the sky. At this time, the sky was gradually darkening. The stirring of the clouds in the sky didn't seem very obvious. "What's going on?" Hui Lang frowned and said from behind. Then, he saw flames on the other side of the palace. Moreover, the sound of swords clashing could be faintly heard. "Something's wrong." Leng Hua's expression turned cold. He quickly went to the side of the monarch of Shenyuan and the children. "It must be demonic cultivators." Hui Lang also reacted and said with a cold face, "In the past few days, I heard from the people of Yandian that demonic cultivators have been causing trouble outside. I didn't expect that they would dare to have ideas about this place. They must be tired of living." The king of the Shenyuan kingdom looked at the burning area and heard the sounds of battle. He immediately shouted, "Where is Ning? Your subordinates are here." 8 secret guards appeared out of nowhere and saluted respectfully. "Hurry up and check it out." He mobilized the shadow guards to quickly clean it up. "Anyone who dares to trespass the palace will be killed on the spot." The emperor of the Shenyuan kingdom's voice was deep and cold. The aura of a superior being burst forth at this moment. Yes. 4 of the 8 shadow guards left. The remaining 4 stayed close to the emperor of the Shenyuan kingdom, forming a protective circle around him and the 3 children. Hui Lang and Leng Hua, take good care of Hao and Mu Chen. Quickly send the 3 children back to their parents, the emperor of Shenyuan said as he looked at the 2 of them. Yes. Leng Hua went forward and carried the younger Mu Chen. Hui Lang held Hao's hand. The 2 of them took the children and followed the emperor of Shenyuan kingdom to send the 3 children back to their parents' palace. In the palace, Shenyuan Mose and Fengjiu were also the first to sense the commotion in the palace. They came out of their rooms and saw thick smoke coming from the place where the flames were flashing. The sound of swords clashing could be heard. They couldn't help but frown. Only those demonic cultivators would dare to fight in this palace. Chapter 43-83. They should be in the Imperial Garden, Shenyuan Mose said as he rushed out with her. As they walked towards the Imperial Garden, the Emperor of Shenyuan and the others were also walking towards them with the children. Therefore, it didn't take long for them to meet halfway. "Daddy, Mommy." Yu waved her little hands and shouted. She was very happy to see them. Yu. When Fengjiu saw that the 3 children were all there, his anxious heart finally relaxed. He hurriedly went forward to take Yu. "You came at the right time. Bring the children back and take good care of them. I'll go over there to take a look," the Emperor of Shenyuan said as he handed the 3 children to them. "Hui Lang, Leng Hua, you 2 go with him to help," Fengjiu instructed. "Okay," the 2 of them replied. "By the way, I don't know what's going on with the clouds in the sky. They have been stirring since just now," the Emperor of Shenyuan said as he walked a few steps away, indicating for them to look at the clouds in the sky. Hearing this, Shenyuan Mose and Fengjiu looked up and saw that the clouds were stirring like a whirlpool in the sky that had already darkened. The speed was not fast, as if something was brewing. "Let's go. Let's go back to the palace first," Shenyuan Mose said. Seeing that his father and the others had left, he carried Chen and planned to send them back to the palace first. "Okay," Fengjiu replied. He carried Yu in one hand and held Hao in the other as he followed Mu Chen to the palace. However, after taking a few steps, they felt that something was wrong in the air. They immediately stopped in their tracks and saw that in the night, dozens of demonic cultivators had appeared out of nowhere. They formed a circle and faced each other with their swords. The demonic cultivators knew who they were, so they didn't dare to step forward. They only held their swords with fear in their eyes as if they were waiting for others to attack first. "What are you all standing there for? Attack!" When the leader of the devil cultivators saw the fear in their eyes, he couldn't help but feel annoyed. He shouted sternly, "Don't forget the devil lord's orders." As soon as these words were spoken, the hearts of those devil cultivators trembled, as if they had thought of something. Without any hesitation, they clenched their teeth and flew up, attacking Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu. They knew that with their strength, going against Xianyuan Mose and the ghost Dr. Fengjiu would be like throwing eggs against a rock. However, if they disobeyed orders and did not attack, what awaited them would be a fate worse than death. Kill! A loud shout rang out, and dozens of devil cultivators quickly rushed forward, attacking the two of them. Looking at this scene, Xianyuan Mose's eyes flashed with a cold light. He said coldly, "You overestimate yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his hand, and a powerful aura that was visible to the naked eye formed a half-arc of sharp air current and attacked them. Whoosh! Whoosh! A sharp wind blade slashed past, and with a whoosh, those demonic cultivators who rushed forward groaned and were sent flying one after another. One by one, they fell from a high place and crashed to the ground. Pfft! Blood spurted out from their mouths, and their eyes were filled with horror. They knew that Xianyuan Mose and the ghost Dr. Fengjiu were very strong, but they didn't expect that with their strength, they couldn't even get close to them. Chapter 43-84. Sensing that terrifying ancient might pervading in the air, and sensing the powerful and terrifying airflow in the hollow of his palm, the pupils of the leading devil cultivator shrunk, and he immediately shouted, "Quick! Set up the formation." That sinister voice carried urgency and pressure woke them up. Those devil cultivators who fell on the ground looked towards the leading devil cultivator, then clenching their teeth, they bit their middle finger, and at the same time, blood flowed out. They pressed the blood on their forehead, then one by one, they quickly sat cross-legged, and condensed their hands in front of them to form a seal. Seeing this scene, Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu looked at each other. The former frowned, while the latter's eyes flashed with contemplation and alertness. They instinctively protected the three children behind them. But, in the next moment, they saw a black aura gushing out from between their eyebrows, and gradually, it rapidly condensed between them. Not good. It's the aura of ancient Black Lotus. Fengjiu's complexion changed, and he immediately put down Yu, then said to Xianyuan Mose, "You look after the children." The world-destroying aura of ancient Black Lotus was basically not something that Mose could resist. But she was different, as the cyan lotus within her body was even more powerful, so she could contend against it. Seeing this, Xianyuan Mose took the three children and retreated to one side, then looked at Fengjiu condensing his hands, and a flame carrying the aura of cyan lotus advanced towards those devil cultivators. But at this time, the aura of Black Lotus that was drawn out by the blood of those devil cultivators formed into a black figure. Seeing Fengjiu's flame carrying the aura of cyan lotus, that black figure dissipated in front, but in a flash, it scuttled through the flame, and pounced towards Fengjiu. Ah! Mournful blood-curdling screams accompanied with the aura of death spread in the air. The flame of Fengjiu pounced towards those devil cultivators, and the raging flame instantly engulfed those devil cultivators, and the blood-curdling screams came from within the flame. However, that black figure condensed from ancient Black Lotus was not affected in the slightest. It did not care about the life and death of those devil cultivators behind it, rather swept through the flame, and directly pounced towards Fengjiu. "Be careful," Xianyuan Mose reminded her. He watched as Fengjiu quickly dodged the attack of the black shadow, only to be caught up in it again. The two of them exchanged blows, and the other party was not afraid of her ancient might and powerful aura. This made him a little worried. Looking towards the other side of the palace, the battle there seemed to have not ended. The sounds of fighting could be faintly heard from afar. Could it be that there were only these demonic cultivators tonight? Would the Devil Lord appear? If he did, where would he be now? He furrowed his brows in deep thought as he looked at the burning scene while covering his daughter's eyes. The little girl was not even 3 years old, and she was also a girl. Such a scene would prevent her from having nightmares at night. However, he still underestimated the endurance of the 3 children. When the 3 little guys saw this scene, there was no fear in their eyes. They just watched nervously, worried about their mother. "Father, what is that black shadow? Will mother be able to defeat it?" You worriedly asked, then she reached out her little hand to remove the big hand covering her eyes. Chapter 43-85. Just as they were talking, they saw that the black figure in front of them was hit by Fengjiu's green lotus chi. That attack seemed to hit cotton, but in the next moment, that black chi dissipated in the air. A few drops of blood fell from that black chi and dripped to the ground, disappearing into the soil. Fengjiu looked at the dissipating black figure and again looked at his palm. His eyes flashed. He heard Yu Er's excited and joyful voice coming from behind him. "That's great. Mother won. Mother is so powerful." Fengjiu turned around and saw his daughter's little face brimming with a happy smile. He couldn't help but reveal a smile. However, in the next moment, she was startled by the dense black lotus chi that pervaded the air from a distance. Xianyuan Mose saw her expression change. When he followed her gaze, he saw the palace on fire. He didn't know when, but a powerful black lotus chi had condensed in the air and was surging over there. Could it be the Demon Lord? He opened his mouth and said, frowning. If it was the Demon Lord, then even if his father and others were there, they wouldn't be able to do anything. Even if it wasn't the Demon Lord, with such a powerful black lotus chi, if the black lotus chi entered their body, the consequences would be unimaginable. "Let's go and take a look," Fengjiu said. He knew that it was impossible to let Mose bring the 3 children back. After all, the person there was his father. Even if it wasn't his father, it was impossible for a man like him to hide in the palace and let her go alone. They wouldn't feel at ease leaving the 3 children in the hands of others to protect. Moreover, she didn't bring many people with her this time. Therefore, the best way was to go together. Even if something happened, they could take care of each other. At that moment, Xianyuan Mose carried Mu Chen and Mu Yu, while Fengjiu rushed forward and carried Hao Er. However, when they arrived, they only saw a floor full of corpses, splattered blood, and surging black aura. They didn't see a single living person in the surroundings, whether it was a demonic cultivator, a palace guard, or a shadow guard. "Grandfather is there!" Yu shouted while pointing at the fainted Xianyuan monarch in the corner. "Uncle Hua and Uncle Hui Lang are there, as well as Aunt Shuang." Hao Er looked at the figures that had fallen in a few corners on the other side. He was worried and wanted to go forward to take a look, but was held down. "Stay by mother's side and don't run around." Xianyuan Mose instructed them to follow Fengjiu closely. Then, he quickly went to his father's side and helped him up. At this moment, his body was covered in blood, and there was a faint black aura lingering around his body. He fainted there and did not move at all. For a moment, his heart was in his throat. If the black lotus death aura invaded his body, Xianyuan Mose helped his father up and called out, "Father, father." "Yes. Father. Father. Father." "Mose." Several panicked voices suddenly sounded. The 3 children and Fengjiu looked at this scene in shock, and their expressions changed drastically. Chapter 43-86. And that pair of hands seemed to want to stab deeper into that chest, but they were caught by Xianyuan Mo's hand, making them unable to go any further. But even so, this hard blow, moreover, it was such an unguarded blow, and also such a fatal blow, already made Fengjiu and the three children so shocked that their hearts were about to jump out. Demon Master. Xianyuan Mo's forehead was soaked with cold sweat, and his complexion was also pale. Staring at the person in front of him, he said with certainty. And also at this time, that pair of eyes that were originally closed lifted up, revealing blood-red eyes. It was precisely that pair of bloodthirsty eyes of the Demon Master. At this time, his eyes were filled with madness and excitement, as if looking at the person in front of him, he was already a dead person. Bang! At this moment, Xianyuan Mo saw that pair of blood-red eyes and struck out a palm. But his palm didn't hit him, because at the moment he struck out, the Demon Master had already quickly retreated, and at the same time pulled out that palm that couldn't go any further. Ha 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 ha. Mo's. When the savage and sinister laughter spread in the night, Fengjiu took the three children and quickly rushed towards Xianyuan Mo's. That Demon Master didn't stop them, and a faint light flashed through his blood-red eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. Father. The three children's eyes were red, and they worriedly looked at their mother's palm that condensed a cyan-colored aura and covered their father's chest. Gritted her teeth and hatefully stared at that Demon Master. This bad person, who had turned into her grandfather's appearance, injured her father. Mu Chen also angrily stared at that Demon Master. Seeing that there was a knife at the side, he wanted to pick it up and hit that Demon Master, but he was held down by Hao. Don't run around, don't move, quietly stand there and don't cause trouble for mother. Hao said, staring at that Demon Master, and calmly said, we can't beat him. Fengjiu used the healing power of the Green Lotus to help Xianyuan Mo heal his wounds. If Mo had not avoided the fatal blow to his heart at the last moment, she was afraid that even if she used the healing power of the Green Lotus to heal him, it would not have been effective. Don't bother. I won't die. Xianyuan Mo's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. His voice was weak as he said, he wants you to exhaust the power of the Green Lotus so that he can catch all of us in one fell swoop. Don't fall into his trap. You're heavily injured. I can't just leave you be. Fengjiu said through gritted teeth. When his cold gaze landed on the Devil Lord in mid-air, his eyes overflowed with killing intent. Today, she was going to destroy this Demon Lord. After all, he had once been defeated by them. Being stared at by Fengjiu's murderous gaze, the arrogant smile on the Demon Lord's face faded a little. His bloodthirsty eyes were filled with hostility as he stared at her. With a cold snort, the black aura on his body surged, and even the black aura in the air surged. Boom! A rumbling sound suddenly rang out, like a sudden clap of thunder, coming from the clouds. Fengjiu looked up and saw that the vortex that had appeared in the sky earlier was resonating with the black aura below, making a series of rumbling sounds. Fengjiu, you want to destroy me, and I also want to destroy you. From the time I obtained the ancient Black Lotus until now, I have waited so long, worked hard to absorb the aura in the Black Lotus, and cultivated the Black Lotus technique, all for today. Chapter 43-87. Fengjiu placed one hand on the chest of Xianyuan Mo, and used the unceasing regeneration power of Green Lotus to heal his wounds. Hearing the words of that Demon Master, she sneered, a loser will always be a loser. Originally, I wanted to let you live for a few more days, but now, you delivered yourself to my doorstep to court death. I will let you taste the feeling of having your soul scattered and never reincarnated. Ha 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 ha. Demon Master raised his head and laughed heartily. Then, his laughter suddenly stopped, and his gloomy and cold bloodthirsty gaze fell on her body. Do you think that this monarch will be like that Black Lotus Lord and be exterminated by you? This monarch is not afraid to tell you, this monarch not only obtained the ancient Black Lotus, but also obtained the power of that Black Lotus Lord. You want to exterminate this monarch? Ha! Wishful thinking. Just as his voice fell, a black aura condensed in his palm, and he suddenly rushed forward, attacking towards Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mo's. Fengjiu placed one hand on the chest of Xianyuan Mo's, and when she saw that demon master was about to attack, killing intent burst out from her eyes. Then she slowly retracted the aura in her palm, and said to the 3 children behind her, "Look at your father." Finished speaking, she raised her aura, and with a flash of cyan light in her hand, Qin Feng's sword appeared in her hand, and she faced Demon Master in front of her. Hu! Xiao! Pang, pang, pang. One red and one black figure fought in midair, and the powerful aura fluctuation made the aura of the entire atmosphere become oppressive. Because Xianyuan Mo's and the 3 children had powerful contract beasts within their body, they didn't feel anything under this oppressive might. Merely, that chaotic airflow was like a blade, making them somewhat worried that those airflow would injure their father. "Father, are you in pain?" Yu looked at him with red eyes, and her small mouth flattened, and tears were spinning in her eyes. "Father is not in pain, Yu is obedient, don't worry." Xianyuan Mo's complexion was pale, and he said in a weak voice. It was all his fault for being careless. He thought that his father was unprepared, but he didn't expect that Demon Master could already transform into such a real and difficult to distinguish person. His palm moved and a pill appeared in his hand. He struggled to raise his hand and swallow the pill. Hao, who was beside him, hurriedly lifted the pill and brought it to his lips. "Father, medicine." Hao said, then quickly took out a mouthful of water. After he took the pill, and fed him a mouthful of clear water, and nervously looked at him, "Father, you will be fine, mother's medical skill, she is very good, she will cure you." He smiled, and comforted them. Of Xianyuan Mo's, and Xianyuan Mo's. His Mo's to Xianyuan Mo's, and leave his heart demon S, and Mo's, his heart Mao, leaving his Mo's Ze, and left A Mo's. If he hadn't narrowly avoided the position of his heart at that critical moment, perhaps his entire heart would have been taken out. Even if he was strong, but with such an injury, he could only sit here powerlessly. At this time, he saw a stream of airflow coming towards them. Fengjiu was fighting with the Demon Master, and didn't pay attention to this side. When he was about to raise his hand, he heard a childish voice coldly shout. "Qilin! Silver Wolf! Awu!" Mu Chen and Hao shouted coldly, and the ancient mythological beast Qilin and the snow-white silver wolf jumped out from their bodies, blocking in front of them, blocking the danger in front of them. Chapter 43-88. Yu blinked her eyes as she looked at the 2 majestic Qilin beasts and the snow-white silver wolf in front of her. She had the little fox. Forget it, with the protection of her brother's contracted beasts, she wouldn't let the little fox come out. The Demon Master who was fighting with Fengjiu caught a glimpse of this scene from the corner of his eyes, and his blood-red eyes flashed. "You actually found the ancient Qilin beast." He stared at those children, and a faint light flashed past his eyes, as if he was thinking of something. The sword in Fengjiu's hand was like a green light, attacking towards the Demon Master's chest, but the Demon Master dodged it. Therefore, that sword turned in her hand, and a biting cold light slashed across his waist. The sharp sword blade cut open the black robe on his body, and the wound on his waist was so deep that his bones could be seen. Hiss! The Demon Master sucked in a breath of air. In just a moment of distraction, the side of his waist was cut by the Qin Feng sword. If he hadn't dodged that attack quickly, it was very likely that he would have been cut into 2 halves. "You dare to have ideas about them, this is your end." Fengjiu's cold voice resounded. The attack in her hand didn't stop, and every move was ruthless and full of killing intent. Her strength had recovered to its peak, and the Qin Feng lotus in her body was also a lot stronger, so she wasn't at a disadvantage. However, As the Demon Master had said, he had inherited part of the Black Lotus Lord's ability, and now his strength had increased greatly. If she wanted to take him down in a short period of time, it was really a bit difficult. But when she thought of the injured Xianyuan Mo's, and then thought of the faint light in the Demon Master's eyes when he stared at those children, she knew that today, no matter what price she had to pay, she had to kill him here to prevent future troubles. Thinking of this, she threw the Qinfeng sword into the air, and at the same time her body soared into the air, her hands quickly formed a seal in front of her, and at the same time, she shouted in a low voice, "Fire Phoenix." As soon as she finished speaking, a light flashed and the Fire Phoenix soared into the sky. It spread its wings and flew a circle before arriving at her feet and allowing her to stand on its back. Fengjiu's spiritual aura surged little by little, and a green light appeared between his eyebrows. Then, a small green lotus emerged from between his eyebrows. With the appearance of the green lotus, the aura of the green lotus spread in the air and gradually expanded. In Fengjiu's space, Mo Chen, who was meditating in the golden lotus, seemed to have sensed the commotion outside. He opened his eyes and looked outside through the space. The ground was littered with corpses and blood, as well as the injured Xianyuan Mo's and the 3 children. Looking up, Fengjiu was fighting with the Demon Master who was emitting the aura of the ancient Black Lotus. Seeing the powerful aura of the Black Lotus on the Demon Master's body, he slowly sat down cross-legged in the golden lotus and looked at Fengjiu. A gentle voice sounded from the space and entered Fengjiu's ears. "Ah Jiu, I'll help you with the power of the golden lotus." With just one sentence, Fengjiu did not have time to react. She felt a pure and holy aura fuse with the green lotus between her eyebrows. In an instant, she could feel the power of the green lotus growing stronger. At the same time, she raised her eyes and looked forward. She saw that the light of the green lotus was faintly mixed with bits of golden light. Wherever it passed, the aura of the ancient Black Lotus in the air disappeared bit by bit. No. This is impossible. Chapter 43-89. Fengjiu looked at him coldly. As her hands moved, a stream of energy gradually formed between her hands. It was a stream of energy that was formed from the green glow of the green lotus and the golden glow of the golden lotus. It was like 2 sides of a Tai Chi diagram that rotated in her hands and gradually condensed. Since ancient times, evil has never triumphed over good. No matter how strong you are, your final destination is only death. A clear and cold voice slowly came out of her mouth. The Fire Phoenix under her feet let out a cry and flew towards the Demon Lord in front of it. It used its body of flames to break through the Black Lotus aura that surrounded the Demon Lord like a protective shield. Ao. Xiao. Wherever the Fire Phoenix passed, the black stream of energy would scatter to the sides. The black stream of energy that had condensed in front of the Demon Lord also let out a bang and quickly dispersed because of the unexpected attack. It was also at this moment that Fengjiu's eyes moved. The energy ball that contained the powerful stream of energy in her hands flew towards the Demon Lord at a speed that was too fast for the ears to cover. At the same time, she shouted, "Fire Phoenix, dodge." The Fire Phoenix flapped its wings and flew into the night sky to avoid the attack. In Fengjiu's space, Mo Chen transmitted the aura of his golden lotus bit by bit to Fengjiu. As he continuously released the power of the golden lotus, his body did not gradually weaken like before. Instead, a faint golden holy light appeared. The golden holy light enveloped him. He did not notice the changes in his body, nor did he notice the changes in the golden lotus he was sitting on. With his eyes closed, a golden light quietly appeared between his eyebrows. The golden lotus gradually weakened and disappeared. When it disappeared into the spirit spring in the space, he, who was enveloped by the golden holy light, also disappeared without a trace. Outside, the Demon Lord saw the energy ball carrying the aura of death coming towards him. At that moment, his heart skipped a beat. He felt the aura of death filling the sky, as if it wanted to devour him. Almost without thinking, he clenched his hands together and the black lotus that had been hidden between his eyebrows also appeared at this moment. His hands quickly formed a powerful protective shield with the aura of the black lotus. When he saw that the energy flow was blocked by the aura of the black lotus, he finally relaxed and raised his head to laugh loudly. "You want to kill me? It's not that easy." Fengjiu's eyes flashed when she saw this. She flew up and gathered air currents in her hands and pushed them towards the energy ball. An endless stream of air flowed through her body and into the energy ball. She watched as the green and golden light in the energy ball grew stronger bit by bit, swallowing the black air currents bit by bit. She looked up at the Devil Lord in front of her. "Today, you have to die even if you don't want to." That voice, like a summons from hell, entered the Devil Lord's ears and crashed into his heart, causing him to widen his eyes in shock. This was because the protective shield formed by the aura of the Black Lotus was weakening bit by bit. It was as if his protective shield was going to shatter in the next moment. Looking at this scene, and then looking at Fengjiu's cold murderous aura and monstrous aura, the Devil Lord's originally terrified heart gradually calmed down. He stared at her and revealed a strange smile. "I know why you can't wait to kill me." Chapter 4390. Looking at the strange smile on his face, Fengjiu frowned. He had a bad premonition. Immediately, he injected spiritual power into the energy ball in his palm again, wanting to break the Demon Lord's defensive shield as soon as possible and kill him. "Fengjiu." The Demon Lord stared at her, revealing an inexplicable smile. "This lord has fought with you for so long, and I thought that I would kill you all. At that time, this lord would become the supreme ruler of the 6 realms, but I didn't expect that you would come back again, and become my stumbling blocks, hindering this lord from becoming the supreme ruler of the world. Before this lord obtained the Black Lotus of Destruction, I was no match for you. After this lord obtained the Black Lotus of Destruction, obtained the power hidden in the Black Lotus, and cultivated the Black Lotus technique, this lord always felt that this time, even if you and Xianyuan Mo's joined forces again, you would still be no match for this lord. However, in order to prevent any accidents, this lord decided to kill one of you first, but unexpectedly, your luck is always so good." His blood-red eyes swept past Fengjiu and fell on Xianyuan Mo's. Just a little bit more, and Xianyuan Mo's heart would be dug out. Just a little bit more. Perhaps, from the moment the ancient golden lotus fell into your hands, this lord was destined to always lose to you. But, haha. He smiled sinisterly, staring at Fengjiu, and said, "Since this lord will lose to you no matter what, then this lord will give you a big gift even if it means sacrificing my life." Fengjiu's heart sank, and asked, "What do you want to do?" "Ha ha 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 ha. You will know soon." He no longer used the power of the Black Lotus of Destruction to protect the defensive shield. Instead, he tore open his shirt, revealing his chest that was covered in old wounds. His blood-red eyes stared at Fengjiu with a hint of madness in them. He used his finger to pierce his own heart, offering the blood of his heart as a sacrifice. Blood gushed out from his heart, dripping bit by bit. However, it did not drip to the ground. Instead, every drop of blood condensed under his feet, connecting together as he drew a strange imprint with his finger that was stained with his heart's blood, releasing powerful black light. In the air, the chi of the Black Lotus, which had been weakening, began to surge under the effect of his heart's blood. The chi of death on the corpses on the ground was sucked into the strange formation, and the Black Lotus in between the Demon Lord's eyebrows also flew out of his body and hovered in front of him. A powerful airflow surged in the air, whistling, and a gust of wind suddenly rose, whistling. In the corner below, the Qilin beast and the silver wolf stood in front of the 3 children and Xianyuan Mo's, blocking the powerful airflow for them. The gust of wind blew, and the robes of the corpses on the ground fluttered. Even the corpses seemed to show signs of being blown by the strong wind blade. Hao held the 2 children in his arms, half lying on the ground, so that they would not be blown away by the strong wind blade because of their small size. They looked up and saw the two airflows in front of them colliding with each other, stirring up countless airflows. Suddenly, the blood under the demon lord's feet seemed to have a life of its own. With a flash of light, it moved from under his feet to the side of the sky, forming a strange formation in the sky like stars. Chapter 43-91. The dark aura on his body surged, and the bloodthirsty smile on his lips was strange and fierce. His voice was sinister and crazy. I will make you beg for what you want but can't get it. I will make you lose what you value the most. I will make you live in pain and regret. Ha 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 ha. He raised his head and laughed wildly. A gust of wind surged around him. The next moment, his hands formed a complicated seal. His blood-red eyes stared at the three children. Immediately, the figures of the three children were sucked up by the blood formation. They flew to the front of the strange formation and were fixed in the heart of the blood formation. Ah! Mother! 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 The three children exclaimed and waved their hands and feet, but they could not break free from the power that fixed them in place. Seeing this, the snow wolf and the Chilan beast rushed forward to save them, but the blood formation flashed and sucked them into the bodies of the two children. How, Chen, you, Fengjiu exclaimed and her heart skipped a beat. She wanted to turn back to save them, but found that she could not withdraw her hand from the energy ball. It was as if she was sucked in by a force and could not move at all. Fire Phoenix! Fengjiu shouted anxiously and asked the Fire Phoenix to go down and save them. However, when the Fire Phoenix rushed down to the blood formation, it was also repelled by the powerful blood formation and could not get close. Master, I can't get close. The blood formation is an ancient evil formation. It is driven by the blood of his heart and protected by the aura of the Black Lotus of Destruction. I can't get close. The Fire Phoenix said anxiously. Seeing the three children there, but unable to do anything, she could not help but feel anxious. Seeing this, Xianyuan Mo's struggled to stand up, but fell down powerlessly. Seeing the three children trapped in the blood formation, he immediately called, Azure Dragon. The Azure Dragon flew out of his body. Without his command, it also tried to break the blood formation. However, it could not shake the ancient blood formation at all. This is an ancient blood curse formation. Even if it's us, we won't be able to break through it. The Azure Dragon's deep and majestic voice rang out in the air. It stared at the demon lord within the defensive barrier. In the next moment, it let out a low roar and rushed towards the defensive barrier. The dragon's body coiled around the defensive barrier, wanting to use its own strength to break the demon lord's defensive barrier. Since the blood array couldn't be broken, as long as he could break the defensive barrier and kill him, the blood curse ancient array would naturally disappear. However, the demon master laughed softly. It's useless. Today, even if you combine all your strength, you won't be able to stop what I want to do. He stared at Fengjiu and said word by word, I offer my heart's blood as a sacrifice. I'll break the bond between you and your child and curse your child so that he will never remember anything related to you in this lifetime. In the 3,000 worlds, you will never meet again in this lifetime. As his voice fell, the blood of his heart gushed out from his chest and sprayed on the Black Lotus. At the same time, the rotating Black Lotus flew out with a whoosh and fell into the ancient blood formation. At the same time, a dark light surged and a devilish black hole appeared. It swallowed the three children and the Black Lotus at a speed that was too fast for anyone to react to. Father, mother. 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 How, Chen, you, Chapter 43-92. Bang! Boom! Boom! Crack! Boom! The demon lord's soul was destroyed and turned into ashes, dissipating between heaven and earth. The black aura in the air also dissipated with the death of the demon lord. The remaining aura of the black lotus in the air was gradually purified by the radiance of the green lotus and the specks of golden light until not a trace of it could be found. Chen How Fengjiu, who had fallen to the ground, screamed at the top of his lungs. However, he only had time to see the ancient blood array disappear along with the aura of the black lotus. Seeing the three children disappear in front of her, she stood up and her figure swayed slightly. She only felt darkness in front of her eyes. Pfft! Xianyuan Mose was so anxious that he spat out a mouthful of blood. He raised his hand and looked at the sky where the three children had disappeared. His lips moved slightly, but in the end, he could not hold on and fainted. My children. Fengjiu murmured. His legs gave way and he fell to the ground, staring blankly at the disappearing sky. The moment the demon lord's words fell, she felt as if the bond between her and the two children had been severed. In an instant, her heart was filled with fear, as if she had lost her most precious treasure. She was terrified and helpless. Master. Fire Phoenix came to her side. Seeing the trace of blood at the corner of her mouth and the fainted Yama Lord, she said, "Master, don't worry. We will definitely find a way to find the little masters." Azure Dragon wanted to say something, but in the end, he did not say anything. He just came to Xianyuan Mose's side. Seeing that he had fainted, he looked back at Fengjiu and said, "Fire Phoenix is right. Even if it's the blood curse ancient array, there will definitely be a way to break it. Moreover, each of them has a powerful contracted beast. Even if they are wandering alone, they will be fine. Now, let's deal with the matter here first." At least, the demon lord was dead, and the ancient black lotus had lost its power and disappeared between heaven and earth. This should be a good thing. As for the three children, even if they were stranded outside, they would definitely be found one day. Hearing their words, Fengjiu gradually calmed down. That's right. They have contracted beasts with them. Even if they are wandering outside, they will be fine. I have to deal with everything here first before I think of a way to find them. Stabilizing her mind, she wiped away the blood from the corner of her mouth and quickly walked to Xianyuan Mose's side. At this time, the sky was still rumbling, the powerful tremors shaking the entire world. Yi, who had gone to carry out his mission, rushed back as fast as he could when he found out that something had happened in the palace. However, when he brought the people of Yandian back to the palace, he only saw the tragic scene. Master, Madam. Yi quickly stepped forward. When he saw Fengjiu helping his seriously injured master up, he hurriedly helped to support him. He looked around and saw that among the corpses on the ground, there were demonic cultivators and familiar shadow guards. He clenched his fists tightly. "Madam, I'm sorry, I came back late. The devil cultivators were causing trouble everywhere." He was ordered by his master to carry out his mission in Yandian, but he did not expect to see such a scene when he returned. Chapter 4393. Yes. Yi replied. He looked around but didn't see the three little masters. Thinking that they might be in a safe place, he didn't think too much about it. He immediately led his men to check if there were any survivors. He also carried the severely injured Leng Hua and the others into the hall. Finally, under the bodies of several secret guards, they found the unconscious emperor of Xianyuan Kingdom. "Quick, take them all back to the hall," Yi ordered. He quickly mobilized his men and sent a message to Du Fan and the others, asking them to come quickly. After everything was arranged, he saw the Azure Dragon and the Fire Phoenix perched on the roof of the hall. Seeing the two ancient mythical beasts silently looking at the night sky, he felt strange. He thought that they were worried about the chaos in the palace, so he said, "You don't have to worry. Now in all the realms, except for the evil spirit cultivators, no one dares to provoke master and madam. The azure dragon glanced at him and didn't say anything. The fire phoenix also glanced at him and didn't say anything. Perhaps because of the heavy atmosphere, Yi asked, did the devil lord escape or die? The situation in the palace was so tragic. Did the devil lord escape or die? The devil lord is dead. The power of the black lotus was used up and it withered and disappeared. The fire phoenix said, squatting on the roof of the palace, watching the rumbling in the sky gradually calm down. The dark clouds dispersed, and a little starlight appeared in the night sky. She said, the three little masters are also gone. Hearing this, Yi's face changed. What do you mean? Aren't the three little masters in a safe place? How could they be gone? The fire phoenix knew that its master didn't want to talk about the disappearance of the three little masters, so it told him everything that happened tonight. Finally, it said, only when Du Fan and the others came did you tell them to comfort my master, lest she be too worried. Seeing that there was no one else, Yi asked, but doesn't madam have the space? Why didn't she send the three little masters into the space? If I had sent it into the space, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Hearing this, the fire phoenix's gaze sharpened. She swept a cold glance at Yi. Are you blaming my master? I don't dare, I don't mean to blame madam, because I know that madam cares about the safety of the three little masters more than anyone else, I just. Yi lowered his eyes and sighed. He just didn't expect such an outcome. In his opinion, perhaps, such an outcome could have been avoided. Humph. Fire Phoenix coldly snorted and said, in this world, no one cares more about the safety of the three little masters than the master. However, under such circumstances, it was impossible for the master to send the three little masters into the space. He also didn't expect such a result. Now that it has happened, it's not time to look into the problem, but to find a way to solve it. Hearing that, Yi's eyes lit up. The three young masters all have communication jades. Maybe it won't be hard to find them. Saying this, he turned around and walked into the palace, saying, I'll go to the palace and have a look. When Du Fan and the others come, we'll try it together. Seeing him leave quickly, the fire phoenix didn't say anything. She glanced at Azure Dragon and asked, what do you think? Chapter 4394. The fire phoenix snorted in annoyance and said, I know that the ancient blood curse is not that simple, that's why I'm asking you if you have any ideas. No. The azure dragon said. Then can we find them and bring them back? The fire phoenix asked uncertainly. I don't know. The azure dragon narrowed his eyes. If you don't know, then why did you say that to my master? The fire phoenix's temper flared up and it roared at the azure dragon. The azure dragon glanced at it and said, didn't you also comfort her in the same way? Hearing this, the fire phoenix felt its breath stuck in its throat and it couldn't move up or down. It took a deep breath and its body flashed and it turned into a ray of light and flew towards the palace. Du Fan and the others arrived at the palace in the middle of the night. When they arrived, the first person they saw was Yi. When they saw Yi, they strode forward and asked, what happened? Why did you ask us to rush over in such a hurry? Yi looked at them and said, the demonic cultivators are causing trouble everywhere. I was ordered to go to the Hall of Hell to arrange a mission. When I came back, I found out. He told them everything that happened tonight and finally said, I didn't experience it and I didn't see it with my own eyes. What I know is what the fire phoenix told me. Hearing this, everyone gasped and their faces were full of disbelief. So not only are the Yama Lord and the others seriously injured and unconscious, but the three young masters are also missing? Yes. Yi replied and said, I just went to the palace to take a look. Madam is treating the master's injuries and the others are being taken care of by the palace's doctors. He looked at Fan Lin and Qin Xian and said, you have medical skills. It's best if you go and take a look at Leng Hua and the others. Their injuries are very serious and I'm afraid that ordinary medicine won't be able to cure them. Take us to see them first. Fan Lin said to Ying Yi and then said to Du Fan and the others, go and take a look at the master. Qin Xian and I will go and see Leng Hua and the others first. Du Fan thought for a moment and said, we'll go with you. Let's take a look at Leng Hua and the others first. After that, the two of you stay here. We'll go to Master's place. All right. Fan Lin looked at Ying Yi and motioned for him to lead the way, and the group hurried inside. When they arrived at where Leng Hua and the others were and saw the wounds all over their bodies, they couldn't help but feel their hearts in their mouths. In order to take care of them, Leng Hua and Hui Lang were arranged to be in the same room. There were countless wounds on their bodies, but the most fatal ones were not the visible ones on their bodies, but the invisible ones inside their bodies. The doctors in the palace have seen them and said that the visible injuries on their bodies were not fatal. What made them on the verge of death were the invisible injuries in their bodies. I have already let them take the Niden to preserve their life force. Ying Yi said, retreating to the side. Fan Lin said to Qin Xian, go and check on Ling Xuan. Leave this to me. Okay. Qin Xian responded and went to the other room next door. The two of them had followed Fengjiu for a long time, so their medical skills were not bad. Most importantly, they had a lot of panaceas. Therefore, after checking the serious injuries in their bodies, they fed them a life-saving elixir. After checking on them, Du Fan and the others saw that Fan Lin and Qin Xian were there. They left first and went to the place where their masters were. However, when they learned that the three little masters had disappeared without a trace, their hearts were very heavy. Chapter 4395. On the other side of the palace, Feng Jiu slowly retracted her hand and watched as the wound on Xianyuan Moza's chest healed at a visible speed. Only then did she let out a soft sigh and leaned against the headboard to rest. She stared blankly at Xianyuan Moz, who hadn't woken up yet. She closed her eyes to rest and her body gradually relaxed. However, the moment she closed her eyes, she seemed to have sensed something and suddenly opened her eyes. Mo Chen. She called out but received no response. She then flashed into the space. When she saw that the golden lotus in the spiritual spring had disappeared, she was slightly startled, then relieved. He once said that when the golden body was completed, the golden lotus and he would disappear at the same time and return to his master's side. Although she did not know what had triggered him and caused his golden body to be completed earlier, at least this was a good thing. She turned and left the space. She heard the voices of Du Fan and the others outside, so she walked out and sat down in the outer room. She poured herself a cup of water and called out, "Come in." Du Fan and the others outside heard her voice and looked at each other before walking in. They pushed the door open and walked in. They saw their master sitting at the table drinking water. She had not had time to change her clothes and she looked slightly tired. "Master, we are late." They all knelt down at the same time. "Get up," Fengjiu said as she put down the cup in her hand. She said, "Even if you are here, what can you stop? All of this will still happen." Hearing this, they looked at each other and stood up. "Master, we will definitely find the three young masters." Fengjiu did not speak. She poured another cup of water and drank slowly. No one knew what she was thinking. Seeing that she did not speak, Du Fan and the others were worried. Thus, Du Fan asked, "Master, how is the Yama Lord's injury?" "The injury is no longer serious, but he has not woken up yet. You can go and take a look," Fengjiu said. "Then let's go in and take a look at the Yama Lord." They walked inside and saw that the Yama Lord was lying on the bed. His breathing was calm and his wounds had healed. Only then did they turn around and leave. "Master, you should rest first." "We'll take care of the rest," Du Fan said, looking at her. "All right, go ahead." Fengjiu didn't say anything else, or rather, he didn't have the strength to say anything else. Each of them was capable of handling matters. As long as they came over, they would know what to do without any instructions. Du Fan, Qi Kong, and the others retreated while Bai Qingqing and Yi Feifei stayed behind. They saw that she hadn't changed her clothes or treated her wounds, so they prepared a bath for her. "Mistress, you should take a bath first. The wounds on your body need to be treated as well," Bai Qingqing said as she looked at her worriedly. "I got it. You guys can leave now," Fengjiu said as she asked them to leave. She walked towards the big bathtub in the cubicle, took off her clothes, and sank her whole body into the water. Outside, Yi Feifei looked into the room worriedly and whispered, "Is mistress really okay? She doesn't seem to be in a good condition." Bai Qingqing sighed softly. "The 3 young masters are missing. How can she be in a good condition? But don't worry too much. Mistress will adjust." Chapter 43-96. The sky was gray and the sun had not risen yet. In a mortal world far away from here, in a forest deep in the mountains, Hao, Mu Chen, and Mu Yu were sleeping on the grass. Because of the hazy sky and the fact that they were deep in the mountains, several gray wolves noticed the 3 of them. They bared their teeth and drooled as they approached step by step. However, they seemed to have sensed something and suddenly stopped and howled. A woo! The wolf's howl rang out in the deep mountains and old forests, echoing in the air and dissipating with the breeze. Not long after, a wolf king leaped over and landed steadily beside the 3 children. It sniffed carefully and finally bent its front hooves and knelt down, letting out a low howl. Seeing the wolf king kneel down, the few wolves behind it also knelt down and whimpered softly. Perhaps because the wolf's howl rang in their ears, Hao was the first to regain consciousness. Lying on the grass, he opened his eyes. For a moment, there was confusion in his eyes. A woo! Hearing the wolf's howl, he quickly sat up and saw 7 or 8 wolves surrounding him. There was also a larger wolf king. At this moment, they were all kneeling on the ground and looking at him. "Go away!" He shouted coldly and waved a branch at the side. The wolves were shocked and quickly retreated. They quickly left and hid in the grass far away to stare at him. Seeing the wolves leave, Hao then looked at the 2 identical children lying beside him. Looking at their delicate little faces, an image seemed to flash across his mind. However, he had a splitting headache. He screamed and covered his head, not daring to think about it anymore. He sat beside them and looked at the 2 of them. Seeing that they were still unconscious and could not remember who he was. Why was he here? Thus, he rummaged through the things on his body. Finally, he saw 3 words engraved on a small delicate lock on his neck. Shenyuan Hao. That was his name. Shenyuan Hao. He whispered softly. It sounded very familiar. He thought that this should be his name. His gaze fell on the 2 little ones. He glanced at their necks and saw that there seemed to be something similar to his, so he went forward and used his fingers to take a look. Shenyuan Mukan, Shenyuan Mue. He looked at the small words engraved on it and then saw that the 2 of them were wearing the same thing as him. He thought for a moment and nudged them. Wake up, hurry up and wake up. The 2 little guys slowly opened their eyes and sat up. They looked at each other and then looked at Hao in front of them with a confused expression. Do you still remember anything? Hao asked with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. The 2 little guys thought about it and shook their heads. I have a headache. Yu pouted and patted her little head. Me too, said Mu Chen. He looked at him and asked, Who are you? Who are we? Why are we here? Seeing that they were the same as him, Hao was silent for a while before saying, I can't remember either, but the little lock pieces on our necks have names, and they are all the same. I think I should be your older brother. Big brother? The two little fellows looked at him and called out. Yes. Hao nodded and said, I'm Xianyuan Hao. You're Xianyuan Mu Chen and Xianyuan Mu Yu. Chapter 4397. Mu Chen glanced at her. You are the younger sister. Ah. Why? Yu pouted and unhappily looked at him. You are the younger sister. Mu Chen patted her little head. Younger sister. Seeing this, Yu blinked her beautiful eyes, and no longer tangled on this point, rather looking at her two elder brothers, with a trace of blankness in her immature voice, she asked, But, what about our father and mother? Where is our home? Hao and Mu Chen fell silent. Because they didn't know either. They kept feeling that some memories in their minds were missing. Whenever they tried to recall, they would have a splitting headache. The only thing they could do was to find the answer from them, but it was still difficult for them to do so at such a young age. In the end, it was the older Hao who stood up first. Let's find the way. Follow me and don't get lost. Yes, yes. The two little guys nodded, each holding his hand. After watching the three of them leave, the Wolf King, who was hiding in the distance, finally walked out. It looked at the three of them leaving, thought for a moment, and quietly followed them from a distance. After all, they were only 3 children. It was not easy to get out of the deep forest. They walked around for a whole day and still could not find the way out. Instead, they found a cave where they could rest. The sky outside gradually darkened. The 3 children huddled in the cave and looked at the dark place. Yu tightly grabbed Hao's clothes. Brother, Yu is scared. Although Mu Chen did not say anything, his body shrank closer to Hao. Don't be afraid. I will protect you. With me here, it will be fine. He hugged the two of them and hugged them to his side. Looking at the darkening sky outside, his eyes were filled with worry. But it's so dark. Yu is afraid of the dark. She huddled in his arms and whispered. Afraid of the dark? Something seemed to flash through Hao's mind. He suddenly stopped and looked at his hand. He saw a black ring on his finger. He had tried to take it off in the morning, but he couldn't take it off. However, the thing that flashed through his mind made him stunned for a moment. I seem to have thought of something. As he spoke, he touched the ring on his finger and suddenly said, Night Pearl. As soon as he finished speaking, a fist-sized bead appeared in his hand. Looking at the luminous night bead that suddenly appeared, the 3 children were stunned, their faces full of astonishment. Big brother, how did you come out? Yu curiously asked, and looked at him with a novel expression. I don't know. I just felt that there was something that could light up the place. I shouted and it came out. Hao was also taken aback. However, as he looked at the luminous pearl, some images flashed across his mind. Ah! The luminous pearl in his hand fell to the ground as he hugged his head tightly. Ah, it hurts. It hurts. Big brother, big brother. The 2 little fellows panicked when they saw this. They called out to him, and their voices were tinged with tears. Outside, the Wolf King, who had been following them for a day, threw a pheasant into the cave with its mouth. Seeing the 3 human children in a mess, it wanted to go forward, but it saw the little boy pick up a stone and throw it at it. Go away. Go away. Don't come in. Go away. Chapter 4398. The Wolf King, who had wanted to go in to take a look, helplessly stopped in its tracks. It only pushed the dead pheasant inside before retreating to stand guard outside the cave. Inside, Hao was in so much pain that cold sweat seeped out of his forehead. He could not hear Mu Chen and Mu Yu's voices. He hugged his head with both hands and cried out in pain. He could only feel the pain in his head as if it was about to explode. Ah! He screamed in pain, the veins on his neck bulging. His whole person seemed to be in extreme pain. Big brother, it doesn't hurt. Will hug you. It doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt. Cried like a kitten, but still clumsily stretched out her small hands to hug the struggling Hao tightly. Mu Chen also hugged him tightly, afraid that he would kick and hurt his head. The two little guys had never encountered such a situation and did not know what to do. They could only hug their brother and call out to him until he fainted after a long time. Brother, big brother has fainted. Wiped away the tears on her face and looked at Hao's pale and sweaty face under the illumination of the night pearl. It's okay, it's okay. He'll be fine in a while. Mu Chen said as he supported Hao's head with one hand and let his head rest on his thigh. He said to sister, go get the water in the corner. Okay. Responded and quickly got up. She ran to the corner and brought the water she brought back from outside to her two brothers. The water was in a bamboo tube, cut from the bamboo with a dagger tied to Hao's leg. The two little guys carefully fed him some water and sat by his side to watch him. Brother, when will big brother wake up? Held the night pearl in her hand and looked helplessly at Mu Chen with her beautiful eyes. I don't know either. Mu Chen said and thought for a while, then said, maybe, big brother will wake up after sleeping. Hearing this, did not speak again. Instead, she looked at the unconscious Hao and then at the dead pheasant that was thrown in by the wolf. Even if they wanted to eat it, they didn't know how. Therefore, even if the dead pheasant was placed in front of them, the two little guys couldn't do anything. Perhaps it was because they were really tired from the day. As they sat there, they fell asleep. The next morning, before they woke up, Hao, who was resting his head on Mu Chen's calf, slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, there was no confusion in his eyes, only a calm light that was different from other children his age. As he slept, he looked at the two little faces beside him and was startled. He hurriedly sat up and looked at the two little fellows who were covered in dirt and sleeping soundly against the wall. He could not help but feel a tug in his heart. Father, mother. In deep sleep, murmured. This made Hao, who was about to stand up, pause for a moment as he recalled those scenes in his mind. Ah! No! Father, mother! Cried out in alarm and jumped up. Opening her eyes, she saw Hao, standing in front of her. Seeing that he had already woken up, she happily threw herself forward. Big brother, you're awake. Are you feeling better? Does your head still hurt? The little one hugged him tightly and asked several questions in a row. Chapter 43-99. Without their parents by their side, their older brother had become their pillar of support. The two were very dependent on him. Hao hugged and gently patted her back, comforting her. It's okay, I'm fine. Don't worry. But, you scared us to death last night. And big brother kept calling you, but you didn't hear. Saw that the veins on your neck were bulging, as if you were in pain. Pouted, and her eyes were slightly red. It's okay, it's okay. Big brother is fine. It's my fault for making you worry. As he spoke, he looked at the two of them and hesitated for a moment before saying, Little brother, little sister, I just remembered something. Ah! The two little guys widened their eyes. Big brother remembered? Why did big brother remember, but we didn't? Hao held his hand and sat down. He looked at the two and said, I guess it's because of our bloodline. My bloodline is different from yours. How is it different? Aren't you our brother? The two little guys asked, puzzled. I was adopted by father and mother. You two are biological, so your bloodline is naturally different. Hao continued, as for the other reasons, I don't know. Moreover, I only remembered some things, but I didn't remember everything. Then, who are our parents? Where are they? Mu Chen hurriedly asked. Hao glanced at him, shook his head, and said, I don't know. I can't remember. I only know that our parents were very powerful, but I can't remember their faces or their names. However, I know that they taught me how to read, write, and cultivate. Hao was slightly startled as he spoke. Scenes flashed through his mind. Those gentle and loving voices were very clear in his memory, but when he wanted to see their faces clearly, he couldn't see anything. Then, what should we do? Are we unable to find our way home? Father and mother will be worried if they can't find us. Yu's soft voice carried a trace of helplessness, looking pitiful. It's okay. Big brother will protect you. Big brother will bring you home. Hao held their hands with a serious expression on his little face. I will definitely remember everything. There were some things that he didn't tell them. It was the last part of his memory. That demon lord had sent them into an ancient blood curse array. Those vicious words were still echoing in his ears. He thought that the reason why Chun and Yu didn't want to come must be because they were his parents' flesh and blood. The blood curse had sealed their memories, making them unable to remember. Moreover, in his memory, they were able to cultivate, but from the moment he woke up, he discovered that the spiritual power in his body was extremely weak, and he couldn't find a trace of Chun and Yu. He did not know what had caused this, but at the very least, he could still sense the aura of spiritual energy. That was enough, because in that spatial ring, there were things that could be used to contact their parents, as well as many life-saving things that his mother had given him. Chapter 4400. Here, eat a fruit. He handed the fruit to each of them. The two little guys looked at him taking out a few fruits from that dusty ring and couldn't help but widen their eyes in curiosity. Mu Chen looked at the ring on his finger and asked, Big brother, do I also have fruits in this ring? Hao glanced at his space ring. Perhaps because his spiritual power was sealed, his space ring was also dusty without the slightest luster. The difference was that his ring still had a trace of spiritual power, while Mu Chen's was completely undetectable. Your spiritual power should be sealed. As long as you unseal it, you can also take things out from the space ring. Hao explained. Then what about me? Yu quickly asked, why don't I have it? Yours is here. He pointed to an inconspicuous small bracelet on her wrist and said, your things are all in here. You have to remember, you can't lose anything on your body. Those are all given to us by our parents. Also, the space ring and space bracelet, you can't tell anyone about them. This morning, Hao told them a lot of things and also taught them a lot of things. When he heard their stomachs growling, he said, let's stay here like this for now. Wait for me to cultivate for a few days and increase my strength a little, then I'll take you out. Okay. The two little guys nodded in agreement. Big brother, last night, that wolf brought that dead chicken here. Yu pointed to the already stiff chicken at the entrance of the cave and whispered, Yu wants to eat meat, but Yu doesn't know how to cook. She lowered her head and played with the corner of her clothes with her little fingers. Hao thought for a while and gritted his teeth. Let me try. Hearing this, the two little guys' eyes lit up. Big brother knows how to cook. I've seen mother cook and also eaten her roast chicken. It's very delicious. Hao revealed a smile and immediately brought them outside. Once they were outside, even if the wolves were hiding in the dark, Hao could still detect them at a glance. He looked at the pheasants that had already stiffened at the entrance of the cave, and then at the wolves that were hiding. He thought for a while and said, catch me 2 more pheasants. Fearing that the wolves wouldn't understand him, he walked to the entrance of the cave and waved the stubborn pheasant. This one. When the two little fellows heard his words, they couldn't help but look at each other. Just as they were puzzled, they heard rustling sounds coming from the forest. Then, a few wolves scurried away. Not long after, they came back with 2 freshly killed pheasants. "Big brother, how come those wolves listen to your words?" Yu curiously asked. Hao smiled and said, "My contracted beast is a silver wolf. They must have sensed the aura of the Wolf King on me. Alright, let's go pick up the branches." He took the 2 little fellows to pick up some branches in the surroundings. When the wolves saw them picking up branches, they also helped them to bite some branches. Hao cleaned the 2 pheasants at the water source he found yesterday and directly skinned them. He then carried them back and roasted them. However, he didn't do this kind of thing often, so the 2 pheasants were roasted black. Chapter 44:01. Can we eat the meat inside? Let's just eat the meat inside. Mu Chen pointed at the 2 charred chickens. Hao looked at it and used a dagger to cut off the charred outside, then cut the meat inside for them to eat. Try it. Chen took it and handed it to Yu first, then took a piece and ate it himself. Aha, it's delicious. Yu said happily and ate in small bites. She held it in one hand and blew on it with her mouth. Aha, it's delicious. Mu Chen nodded. Hao cut off a piece and ate it. However, as soon as it entered his mouth, he tasted the charred taste and the dry taste of the meat. It was very hard, and there was no seasoning, so there was nothing but the charred taste. It was very difficult to eat. He looked at Mu Chen and Mu Yu eating with relish and his heart tightened. His eyes couldn't help but redden. In order not to let them find out, he lowered his head and bit the charred meat in his mouth while swallowing back his tears. Even if his memory was not fully awakened, he knew that they were of noble birth and had a good life. But now, he let his brother and sister starve to the point that they could only eat this charred chicken. Don't eat it. There are still pastries and a small piece of jerky in the space. Eat that. He reached out and took the meat in their hands and threw it into the extinguished fire. The 2 little guys looked at him and saw that his eyes were slightly red. They couldn't help but ask worriedly, "Big brother, what's wrong?" "Eat this. This can't be eaten. Throw it away and don't want it." He threw away the 2 burnt chickens and stuffed the pastries wrapped in paper into their arms, along with a small piece of jerky. Looking at the things in their bosom, the 2 little fellows hesitated for a bit, then Yu softly said with her immature voice, "But, we can't go out, are we going to wait until we are very very hungry to eat these?" "It's okay. Eat it first. We'll think of a way after eating," he said and let them eat. Seeing this, the 2 little guys looked at each other. So, Chen divided the small piece of jerky into 3 pieces and handed 1 piece to Hao. "Big brother, you eat too." As he spoke, he took some pastries for him. "I don't eat jerky, I only eat few pieces of pastries." Hao said, then handed over the jerky to Yu. "You eat." "Yu doesn't want to eat, big brother eat." Yu shook her little head and pushed back. "Big brother, you eat. Let's share it." Chen looked at him and said. Hao shook his head and said, "This piece of jerky isn't ordinary jerky. It's spirit beast meat. Eating it will be good for your body." He divided his piece of jerky into 2 portions and handed it to the 2 of them. "Eat this and see if you can stimulate the spiritual power in your body. I'll give you some pills later." The 2 little guys looked at each other. Seeing that he didn't want to eat, they took the jerky and asked, "Big brother, will we be able to go back to find father and mother after we have spiritual power?" Hearing them mention father and mother, a picture flashed through Hao's mind. He came back to his senses and said, "You and I are the same. Both of you have contract beasts. But your spiritual power is sealed. So contract beasts can't come out. If you can restore your spiritual power and let contract beasts come out, perhaps we can think of a way to go back earlier." Then can Big Brother's contract beasts come out? You, curiously asked. Chapter 4402. Seeing their faces turn gloomy, he hurriedly comforted them. But Mother gave me a lot of medicinal pills. Maybe some of them can come in handy. As he spoke, he hurriedly took out some small bottles from his space and rummaged through them. When the two little guys saw so many beautiful little bottles, they also went forward to take a look. Mu Chen picked up one and saw the words hemostasis powder written on the bottle. He picked up another one and found that these beautiful little bottles were printed with two words below them. Ghost Doctor. Mu Chen softly read it out. He recognized these two words, and when he said them, he felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Big Brother, the words Ghost Doctor are printed on the bottom of this bottle. Who is this Ghost Doctor? Is it Mother? Mu Chen asked. Something seemed to be faintly floating in his mind, but when he thought about it carefully, his head started to hurt again. Ouch! He put down the bottle and hugged his head with both hands. Little brother. Hao hurriedly went forward and hugged him. Don't think about it. You can't break the seal now. Don't think about it. Mu Chen gradually calmed down. A layer of cold sweat seeped out of his forehead as he looked at the bottle. But I feel that the Ghost Doctor on this bottle and these medicines are related to Mother. These medicines were refined by Mother and given to me by her. The Ghost Doctor should be referring to her. Hao stared at the bottle and said, It's just that, I don't know where we are now, but I know that our home is in the Phoenix Dynasty. The moment Mu Chen said the Ghost Doctor, that red figure once again appeared in his mind. Scenes flashed by, one name after another, but only their names were missing. Big Brother, then when are we leaving here? Let's go out and find our way. We'll find our way home and go home by ourselves, okay? You, looked at him with a pair of beautiful big eyes, her little face filled with excitement. Hao nodded and replied, Okay, but we have to wait until I cultivate. If we go out now, I'm afraid that I won't be able to protect you if you encounter danger. Hearing his words, the two of them didn't say anything else. Instead, they helped him find what medicine he could take. Can this chi-gathering pill be taken? What is this for? And what is it for? Can this Big Brother eat it? The two little fellows asked while holding the pills. Even though they recognized the words, they didn't know what they were for. Meanwhile, in the palace of the Shenyuan Empire, Shenyuan Mose watched as Fengjiu flipped through books all day, trying to find a way to break the ancient blood array. She had lost a lot of weight. He sighed softly, walked up to her, and took the book from her hands. Don't look anymore. You haven't rested for a few days. You can't go on like this. Fengjiu paused, then said, 3 children, I don't know where they are suffering, how can I not worry? How can we not think of a way to break it? Actually, I had a premonition that this day would come. Chapter 4403. Fengjiu was silent and didn't say anything. The two children's faded stars were lit up because she helped them form contracts with the ancient mythical beasts, allowing them to share their lives with the ancient mythical beasts. However, she also knew that even though she had caught contract beasts for the two children, things weren't over yet. Just like her, even though she had formed a contract with the ancient mythical beast, the Fire Phoenix, her journey was also full of trials and tribulations. In order for them to grow, they had to go through those dangers and difficulties. Even though they wanted to protect the two children by their side and block the dangers and tribulations for them, what was to come would come in the end. However, she didn't expect this day to come so early. Shenyuan Mose held her hand and said, Don't worry too much. We should be glad that they have contracted beasts. Moreover, Hao disappeared with them. Maybe the 3 children are together. Will they be together? Fengjiu looked at him with some uncertainty. He held her hand tightly and said, don't worry. They have a lot of good fortune and will definitely turn misfortune into blessing. Moreover, these 2 days, I've been thinking that the demon lord's blood curse ancient array broke the bloodline bond between the children and us. Therefore, I think that without our blood in Hao-er's body, the power of the blood curse ancient array will be greatly weakened. Seeing her tense expression and looking at him, he said, however, this is only my guess. Right now, we don't know which world they are in. Therefore, I think that instead of waiting here, we should go out and look for them. Even if the 3,000 worlds are in different worlds, as long as we have the heart, we will definitely find them one day. Okay. Let's go out and look for them. We'll look for them one by one. She stood up and said, I'll pack up and prepare now. With that, she turned and walked into the room. Xianyuan Mose didn't stop her. He only looked at her figure entering the room and then withdrew his gaze. Half of what he said was to comfort her, and the other half was his guess. Where were the 3 children now? None of them knew. These days, they had tried many methods, but to no avail. There was no response from the communication jades that he sent to the 3 kids. He hadn't heard from them in the past few days, but Fengjiu was getting thinner day by day. He knew that he couldn't let it go on like this. Instead of letting her stay here and wait, flipping through books all day long, it would be better to take her everywhere to search. At least this way, she would have a trace of hope and expectation every day. Yama Lord. Du Fan walked in and bowed to him. You came at the right time. I have something to tell you. As Xianyuan Mose spoke, he looked at him and said, It's already been a few days since the 3 children's matter. The Foam Manor still doesn't know about it. Go back personally and tell them about it. As for the Black Tortoise Sovereign, Gio and I will go there personally. Also, Gio and I plan on going out to look for the children. There's no need for you to follow. Hearing this, Du Fan was slightly startled. Yama Lord, do you only plan to leave with my master? Why don't you bring 1 or 2 people with you? Chapter 4404. Okay, I know. Seeing that he had made up his mind, Du Fan didn't say anything more and retreated after giving a salute. On the other side, the 3 children were still in that deep mountain. They had already stayed here for several days and gradually got used to the environment here. It was worth mentioning that in these few days, Hao had been practicing his barbecue skill. Although he couldn't make the barbecue taste like the barbecue his mother made in his memory, but compared to the first time, he had already improved a lot. They also didn't need to go hunting because that Wolf King would bring them prey. Because he was worried that he couldn't protect the 2 little ones, Hao-er also taught Chen-er and Yu-er to practice these few days in addition to his own practice. However, their spiritual power was unable to recover, so he could only teach them some martial skills. Big brother, I seem to have learned this before, I know it. Chen-er looked at the set of fist techniques he was making and felt very familiar. Immediately, he followed suit and made every punch just right. Daddy should have taught you before, this fist technique was taught to me by Daddy. Hao said with a smile on his little face. Yu-er seems to know it too. Yu-er said with her little head tilted and also followed suit. Well, you 2 practice by yourselves. I'll go over there and practice under the tree. You 2 don't go too far. If there's anything, just call me. Hao-er told them to practice by themselves. He went over to the tree, sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to practice. The 2 little guys also practiced seriously because these days their big brother told them that their daddy and mommy weren't by their side. If they encountered bad people, they had to think of a way to protect themselves. Therefore, they had to practice well and couldn't be lazy. In the deep mountain forest, the climate was relatively humid. Although there was sunshine, but the air was always a bit more damp. The 2 children practiced for the whole morning. Their clothes were wet with sweat and felt very uncomfortable. Because they didn't wash, it was more like something was biting their body. Big brother, you, is itchy here. You, slightly twisted her little body and wanted to scratch her back, but she couldn't. Here. Chen, helped her scratch the itch and asked. No, a little more to the left, a little more. Yes, it's right there. The little one's beautiful eyes curved into crescents as he smiled. So comfortable, big brother, grab again, grab again. You, giggled. Seeing this, Chen said, I'll take you to wash up. It won't itch anymore after I wash it. Bathe? But the water there is very small, so you can't bathe there. You, said while looking at her brother. Then wipe it, or call big brother. Let's find a bigger water source. We haven't bathed for a few days. As Mu Chen spoke, he noticed that his clothes were no longer the original color. He couldn't help but frown. But big brother is cultivating. You, looked at Hao, who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. Thinking for a bit, she said, how about we go by ourselves? Mu Chen was a little tempted, but in the end, he shook his head. Big brother will be worried if we go alone. He said that we have to tell him where we are going, or he won't be able to find us. Then let's go and call big brother. You, trotted forward, big brother, you, wants to take a bath. Chapter 4405. Okay, let's go look. After we find it, we'll take a bath and leave this place. He stood up and looked around. Wolf King, come here. At the same time, he waved his hand. When the Wolf King heard his voice, it crawled up from the grass. Seeing him waving at it, it paused for a moment before carefully walking over and howling in a low voice. Lie down. Hao, patted its rear, and the Wolf King lay down. Come, sit on its back. We'll ride it to look for it. As Hao, spoke, he carried Chen, to the front and then carried you, to sit on it. He sat at the back. Little brother, hold on to its fur and don't fall. You have to clamp its body with your legs. Hao, taught him from behind. Okay. Mu Chen responded and lay down slightly. His hands tightly gripped the Wolf King's fur and his legs clamped tightly on its body. In response, the Wolf King looked back at them and did not move. It just waited for them to sit properly. You, carried Chen, in front and Hao, at the back stretched out his hands to protect them so that they would not fall in the process of running. Go to the front. Hao, clamped its waist like riding a horse and shouted. The Wolf King rushed out like the wind, followed by 7 or 8 wolves. Ha ha ha. So fun, so fun. You, giggled happily, not knowing fear at all. Chen-er's eyes also sparkled as he looked ahead. The Wolf King ran very fast and the wind in front of them was also strong. They only felt very happy as they watched the trees around them quickly pass by. Fortunately, they were deep in the forest and there were very few people around. Otherwise, ordinary people would probably be scared half to death if they saw 3 children riding wolves in the forest. After walking around the forest for a while, they found a large mountain spring. Thus, the 3 children prepared to wash their dirty bodies here. Big brother, what if you, doesn't have clean clothes to wear after bathing? The little one blinked and looked at him. She realized that her big brother had a solution for everything. It's okay. You go down and wash first. After washing, wear my clothes. I'll help you wash your clothes and then dry them. Hao said. Seeing that Chen couldn't untie his belt, he went forward and said, let me do it. When Mu Chen saw that the belt that he had been trying to untie for a long time was untied, he thanked him happily, thank you, big brother. Hurry up and wash up, but you can't wash for too long. The spring water is too cold. You'll get sick if you wash for too long. Hao looked at the sun above. Fortunately, it was noon and the temperature was warmer. Okay, okay. The two little guys responded. Mooch took off his clothes first and shyly covered the little bird between his legs as he got into the water. Yu pulled her knotted hair and shouted, "Big brother, my hair is knotted." Hao was in the process of putting away Chen-er's clothes to one side. After hearing Yu-er's words, he saw that she had taken off her outer garment and was standing there pulling her hair while wearing only a small inner garment, so he said, "Big brother will help you wash your hair first. Come here." Yu-er obediently walked over, and was carried by him. Her body was laid flat on his lap, and her head was slightly lowered, dipping into the spring water. "Wash your face first. It will be a little cold." Hao said and carefully wiped her little face with a small handkerchief. After letting her adapt to the spring water, he helped her wash her hair. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.